The smell of burning wood wafts through the atrium, carried on a warm breeze that stirs the candelabras and flickers the flames. In this small villa in Rome's Subura district, the temperature has dipped to a chilly 12 degrees C outside, but inside it remains a balmy 18 degrees C due to the thick walls and terracotta tiles. The owner of the house, Marcus Furius, is said to be out for the evening, leaving his slaves to their duties. The sound of footsteps echoes through the corridors as a young slave, Lucius, makes his way to refill the oil lamps in the sleeping quarters. He passes by the bedroom where a single occupant lies fast asleep, a 35-year-old merchant named Gaius who has spent the day haggling over goods at the Forum. What if this was your life? What if every night you lay awake listening for the sound of the city's nocturnal sounds, or worse, worrying about the next business venture gone wrong? What if the darkness outside felt like a presence in the room with you? And what if the only thing standing between you and the world, beyond these stone walls, was the fragile thread of your own sanity? If you're listening to this to fall asleep, that's exactly why I make these. Drop a comment and tell me where you are and what time it is. I read every single one. As Lucius finishes his rounds, he leaves Gaius' bedroom door slightly ajar, allowing the warm air from the hallway to seep in. The scent of damp stone and yesterday's garum wafts through the narrow alleyways of Rome, carrying with it the promise of another day. You stand in line outside a small thermopolis, waiting for your turn to order breakfast from the vendor within. The air is crisp and cool, with a hint of wood smoke carried on the morning breeze. The sounds of the city are just beginning to stir. The clanging of pots, the murmur of conversation, the distant rumble of chariots over cobblestone streets. You adjust your tunic, feeling the worn fabric cling to your skin as you shift your weight from one foot to the other. Inside the Thermopolis, the vendor, a gruff but kind-eyed man named Marcus, is already hard at work. He's arranging a selection of breads and pastries on his counter. Crusty panis focaccius, soft and fluffy pita-like flatbreads called panis focaccius minori, and an assortment of fried donuts called spongy. The smell of baking wafts out into the alleyway, mingling with the scent of garum. You step forward in line, trying to get a glimpse of Marcus's latest offerings. He catches your eye and nods curtly. No small talk today, just business as usual. You scan the selection before you, weighing the pros and cons of each option. The panis focaccius looks particularly enticing, with its crispy crust giving way to a soft interior. As you deliberate, a group of early rising merchants strolls by, their togas billowing behind them like clouds on a windy day. They nod to Marcus in passing, exchanging brief greetings and pleasantries before continuing on their way. You watch as they disappear around the corner, feeling a twinge of envy at their seemingly effortless air. Eventually, it's your turn to order. You approach the counter, trying to decide between the panis focaccius and something less familiar, what looks like a small meat pie wrapped in a thin layer of dough. Marcus raises an eyebrow as you hesitate, clearly expecting you to know exactly what you want by now. Panis focaccius, he suggests helpfully, his tone a gentle nudge rather than a direct question. You nod gratefully and hold out your coins for the purchase. As you wait for him to wrap up your order, you take in more of the Thermopolis's offerings, an assortment of fresh fruit carefully arranged on a nearby counter, a jumble of loose vegetables, lettuce, onions, carrots that look like they've been sitting out for a while, and at the back of the shop, what appears to be a large stone mortar, partially filled with a mysterious substance. Marcus hands you your panties focacious, wrapped in a piece of cloth to keep it warm. You take a bite as soon as he steps aside, oh so crunchy crust giving way to soft interior, and feel the world come alive around you once more. The flavors are familiar yet comforting. A faint tang from the garum that's been added to the bread, a rich sweetness from whatever olive oil or honey has gone into its preparation. As you finish your snack, another customer arrives at the counter, an elderly woman with a kind face and a wicker basket slung over her arm. Marcus greets her warmly, offering her his customary smile as he asks how she's doing today. You watch them chat for a moment before turning to continue on your way. The morning air is still crisp, but it's starting to warm up now, the first hints of sun creeping over the rooftops and casting long shadows across the alleyway. You feel its gentle warmth seeping into your skin as you walk along, the weight of your tunic shifting with each step. As you navigate the narrow streets of Rome, you can't help but think about how much this city has to offer all these small pleasures. A freshly baked loaf of bread, the taste of garum on your tongue, or simply the sound of people chatting as they go about their day. You feel grateful for another chance to experience it all. You make your way through the winding streets, pausing occasionally to chat with someone you know or just to take in a particularly beautiful view. A glimpse of sunlight dancing across the marble columns of a nearby temple, the sound of running water from a nearby fountain, or simply the feel of the cool stone beneath your feet. Eventually, you find yourself at the edge of the Forum Romanum. The morning light casts long shadows across its central square, a jumble of ancient buildings and monumental ruins that seem to stretch on forever in every direction. You pause for a moment to take it all in. The imposing grandeur of the Temple of Julius Caesar, the crumbling majesty of the Curia Julia, or simply the quiet tranquility of this great public space. And then you notice something peculiar, an elderly man sitting at one end of the forum, his eyes fixed intently on some invisible point beyond the horizon. He's dressed in a simple tunic and has what appears to be a small wooden staff leaning against his leg. There's something peaceful about him, something that makes you want to pause for just a moment longer. The sounds of the city continue around you, children laughing as they play nearby, merchants calling out their wares from street stalls or market carts, or simply the gentle hum of conversation and everyday life unfolding in every direction. You breathe it all in, this rich tapestry of sound, smell, and sensation that is ancient Rome at dawn. Marcus's Thermopolis recedes into memory as you wander through the city streets, but its influence lingers, a faint tang of garum on your tongue, or perhaps the soft crumbiness of panties focacious. You feel yourself being drawn deeper into this vibrant world, one that is full of small pleasures and everyday moments waiting to be discovered. The morning light continues to creep across the rooftops as you walk along, casting shadows in every direction. The air cools slightly now, but it's still warm enough for a pleasant stroll through these ancient streets. You pause occasionally to admire some particularly beautiful architecture, or simply to let the sounds of the city wash over you. Eventually, you find yourself at the edge of a small park, an oasis amidst all this stone and steel. The morning light filters through its trees in dappled patterns on the grass below, cool shadows one moment, warm sunlight the next. You pause for just a moment longer to breathe it all in. As you pause to breathe it all in, a gentle breeze stirs the leaves above, releasing a soft, rustling sound that seems almost familiar, yet utterly foreign. You can't quite place where this feeling comes from. Perhaps it's the way the air vibrates with the distant hum of chariots and carts, or maybe it's the faint scent of freshly baked bread wafting through the morning mist. Whatever its source, the sensation is calming enough to coax you forward into the park. You stroll along a winding path that threads between ancient trees, their gnarled trunks twisted with age. The dappled light filtering through their leaves casts intricate shadows on the ground beneath your feet, one moment cool and soothing, the next warm and inviting. As you walk, the sounds of the city begin to recede, replaced by a symphony of birdsong, sweet melodies from unseen perches high above, punctuated by the occasional clucking or chirping as some unwary creature stumbles into the park. You breathe in deeply, letting the scent of damp earth and fresh greenery fill your lungs. A nearby bench beckons you to sit for a moment, its worn wooden slats smoothed to a soft sheen from countless bottoms that have rested there over the years. You settle onto it, running a hand along the intricate carvings that adorn its backrest, tiny leaves, vines, and flowers etched into the wood with loving care. For a time, you simply sit in silence, letting the stillness of this oasis wrap around you like a gentle shroud. But your reprieve is short-lived. Soon, the sounds of the city creep back in. Shouts from nearby market stalls, the clang of pots and pans being hung out to dry, or the low rumble of conversation between passers-by. Your stomach growls softly, protesting its emptiness as you recall that it's been hours since your last meal. You check your timepiece, though what is this strange device doing here in ancient Rome? Only to find that the morning sun has already climbed high into the sky, and so have your hunger pangs. You rise from the bench, smoothing out your tunic as you do so. Time for breakfast, it seems. With a new sense of purpose, you set off towards the nearby forum, where vendors will be hawking their wares to hungry customers like yourself. As you stroll through the bustling market streets, aromas and sights assault your senses in equal measure. Enticing smells from freshly baked breads, steaming meats, or sweet pastries, vibrant displays of colorful fruits and vegetables on wooden stands, and the cacophony of vendors calling out their daily specials to passers-by. Your stomach growls louder still as you navigate through this sensory overload. You begin to crave something warm and filling, perhaps a nice piece of panis focaccious toasted with olive oil and herbs. Or maybe some garam-spiced meat pies fresh from the oven. You stop in front of one such stall, scanning its offerings while trying not to show your eagerness. A kindly old woman greets you warmly, offering samples of her daily wares. A basket of fresh olives, a few pieces of roasted chestnut, or some slices of juicy porchetta. Buongiorno, young traveler, she says with a smile, beckoning you closer. What takes your fancy today? We have all manner of delights on offer. Your eyes widen at the array before you, and your stomach lets out an appreciative rumble. Ah, but this is where things get complicated. For as lovely as these offerings seem, they're not quite what you'd find in a typical Roman breakfast spread. Actually, you say hesitantly to the vendor, I was thinking more along the lines of some panis focaccious or perhaps. The vendor's smile falters for an instant before she bursts out laughing. Ah, Dio mio. You must be one of those New Age barbarians from beyond our borders. Panis focaccious. Borgata, we have better things to eat in Rome than just dry bread and overcooked meat. She winks at you conspiratorially. Let me show you the real breakfasts of Roman gentlemen: garum, salted fish, dormice. Ah, yes, you'll see what I mean. Your stomach protests anew as she leads you deeper into her stall, where a strange assortment of foods awaits. Jars filled with glistening liquids is that oil, tubs containing tiny creatures that look like miniature rodents, and an assortment of salted fish staring back at you from their ceramic containers. You exchange uneasy glances with the vendor. No, I think I'll just have some bread if it's not too much trouble. As she winks once more. Ah, but that would be far too boring for our esteemed guests. Come now, let us show you how Roman breakfasts are truly done. With an air of gleeful mischief, she hands you a small wooden spoon and gestures towards the array before you. The scent of baking bread wafts through the air, carried on the gentle breeze that stirs the dust motes dancing around the lanterns. You sniff deeply, savoring the aroma that teases your senses and reminds you of countless mornings spent in the kitchen. Your stomach growls softly, a reminder that breakfast is long overdue. You take another whiff of the bread and your eyes wander to the array before you. An assortment of golden pastries steaming hot from the oven, a tray of fresh fruit, its colors vibrant against the dull ceramic, a jug of frothy milk, its creamy surface adorned with a sprinkle of cinnamon. Your hostess's mischievous grin seems to say that this is just the beginning. She hands you a small wooden spoon and gestures towards the pastries. Ah, but that would be far too boring for our esteemed guests, she exclaims, her eyes sparkling with amusement. You take a tentative bite of one of the pastry triangles, its flaky crust giving way to a soft interior. The flavors dance on your tongue, sweet, savory, and just a hint of spice. You chew slowly, savoring the texture as it dissolves in your mouth. Your hostess watches with an air of satisfaction, her eyes never leaving yours. Roman breakfasts are truly done, she says, her voice dripping with pride. You can almost hear the capital letters in her tone. This is a culinary experience unlike any other. As you eat, you notice that the kitchen seems to be getting busier by the minute. The air thickens with the scent of roasting meats and steaming vegetables. It's clear that today we'll see an elaborate feast prepared for some distinguished guest. You try to catch your hostess's eye, but she's too busy directing her staff as they prepare the various dishes. The kitchen is a flurry of activity. Pots clanging against the stoves, utensils being scrubbed with soap and water, and the sound of low conversation punctuated by occasional laughter. Amidst all this chaos, you find yourself at a small wooden table near the back of the room, surrounded by half-eaten pastries and forgotten cups. Your hostess catches your eye for a moment, her expression softening into a gentle smile. I'm afraid I have some news to share, she says, as if just remembering that there's more to life than food alone. You lean in slightly, intrigued despite yourself. She takes a deep breath and begins to speak. Today is the day when. Well, it's a bit of a complicated story. Her voice trails off, leaving you wondering what exactly she means by a bit of a complicated story. But before you can ask any questions, she continues. You see, I have a dear friend who has been staying with us for some time. She's an old mistress of the emperor himself. Your ears perk up at this revelation. You've heard rumors about such arrangements being common among high-ranking officials and their entourages. But before your hostess can elaborate on her friend's connection to the imperial family, she pauses. Ah, yes, she says with a wry smile, the emperor's forgotten mistress. The phrase hangs in the air like an unspoken challenge. How many of us have been abandoned by those we once thought would love and cherish us? You watch as your hostess expertly juggles several conversations at once, directing her staff on various tasks, while also managing a stream of visitors who seem to be arriving with increasing frequency. You try to follow the flow of events, but it's hard not to get lost in the labyrinthine corridors of Roman society. As you sit there, surrounded by the tantalizing aromas and tastes of a meal yet to come, your hostess glances around the room as if checking for unwanted listeners. She leans in closer. Her voice takes on a conspiratorial tone that sends shivers down your spine. Her name is Aurelia, she says quietly, and I'm afraid our esteemed guest's arrival today will stir up more than just memories of imperial hospitality. Your ears perk up at this enigmatic statement, but before you can ask any questions, the sounds from outside grow louder, and with them, a sudden chill runs through your veins. The air in the kitchen seems to vibrate with an almost palpable tension. You turn towards the door, sensing that something is about to change the course of events for everyone present. Your hostess catches your eye once more, this time her expression clouded by worry, and it's clear that Aurelia's story will soon become a lot more complicated. The sound of footsteps growing louder outside sends a shiver down your spine as you wonder what exactly is about to walk into the kitchen, and whether today will be just another day in ancient Rome or something far more remarkable. As you lie there, listening to the sound of footsteps growing louder outside, your mind begins to wander back to the events that led Aurelia here to this kitchen in this ancient Roman house on a day like any other. You recall how she had stumbled upon an old journal hidden away in a dusty corner of her own chambers, its pages yellowed with age and filled with cryptic notes about a long-forgotten mistress of the emperor himself. The memory sends a shiver down your spine as you realize that Orlia's story will soon become a lot more complicated. You wonder what exactly she might have discovered in those ancient writings. Secrets about her family, perhaps, or hidden treasures buried deep within the city's labyrinthine streets. Just then, the door to the kitchen creaks open, and a young servant girl slips inside, carrying a large wooden bucket filled with fresh bread and vegetables. Her eyes dart nervously around the room as she sets the basket down on the counter, her gaze lingering for a moment on you before quickly looking away. Ah, Aurelia, she says softly, addressing the sleeping form beside you. Your father awaits your presence in the atrium. Aurelia stirs lazily beneath the covers, rubbing the sleep from her eyes as the servant girl scurries out of the kitchen once more. You watch with a mixture of curiosity and concern as Aurelia swings her legs over the side of the bed and plants her feet firmly on the floor. As she rises to her full height, you notice something strange, a small, delicate locket around her neck, glinting in the morning light that streams through the windows. It's an heirloom passed down from generations of women within Aurelia's family line. But what exactly does it symbolize? And why is it now around her throat? You try to make sense of these questions as you follow Aurelia out into the atrium, the warm sunlight enveloping you like a gentle hug after the cool darkness of your bedroom. The air is alive with the scent of blooming flowers and fresh bread baking in the nearby ovens. Your gaze roams over the familiar sights and sounds of the household, the ornate mosaics adorning the floors, the statues of mythological gods perched atop pedestals, watching over the proceedings like silent sentinels. You recognize your own family's slaves scurrying about, busily tending to their various tasks. Aurelia leads you towards her father, who sits on a throne-like chair at the center of the room, surrounded by his most trusted advisors and scribes. His eyes are fixed intently upon Aurelia as she approaches him, an unmistakable glint in those piercing brown orbs that sends shivers down your spine. "Well," he says curtly to one of his attendants, a tall man with a thick beard who's scribbling away on a parchment at the footstool beside him. "What progress have you made towards resolving this matter?" The attendant hesitates for an instant before answering, and in that moment, Aurelia darts forward her hand, instinctively reaching out to grasp something hidden within her robes. "Father," she interrupts brusquely, "may I speak with you privately on the matter at hand? Something has come up which requires my attention." A faint ripple runs through the group of advisors as they glance uncertainly towards Aurelia's father, who nods curtly and waves his attendants away. "Intrigue," he mutters to himself under his breath. "Something's brewing in that child, and it reeks of trouble." As the room begins to clear out, you sense an unspoken understanding between Aurelia and her father, a knowledge shared on some deeper level about what lies ahead for their family and the fate they're hurtling towards. Aurelia's hand still trembles within its hiding place as she leans in close to whisper something urgent into her father's ear. You strain your ears, trying to catch every word of this hushed conversation that promises danger and adventure alike. And then it happens, an unexpected visitor bursts into the room, crashing through the doorway like a force of nature. None other than Aurelia's long-lost cousin, Lucius. The scent of wet earth and herbs wafts through the air, carried on a faint breeze that stirs the reeds swaying outside the laundry hut's open door. Aurelia steps aside to let Lucius in, his arrival causing a brief commotion among the servants as they juggle their tasks with curiosity. Lucius, still a bit disheveled from traveling, flashes a charming smile at Aurelia before turning to survey the scene within. His gaze settles on the steaming tub of water, where one of the laundry attendants is scrubbing away at a particularly stubborn stain on a richly patterned tunic. "Ah, sister dear," Lucius says, his voice warm with affection as he takes in the bustle around him, "I see you're still stuck on the drudgery of household chores. I almost expected to find you wrestling with a recalcitrant loom." Aurelia chuckles and rolls her eyes good-naturedly at her cousin's teasing, gesturing for Lucius to take a seat near the fire where he can warm his chilled bones. The laundry attendant working on the tunic glances up from their task as Lucius approaches. "Ah, patrician sir," they say with a slight bow, acknowledging the higher social status of the Roman nobleman. "Welcome to our humble abode." Lucius flashes them an affable grin and takes his seat beside Aurelia, who is absently working on untangling a knot in her own hair. As Lucius warms himself by the fire, he runs a hand through his disheveled locks, releasing a faint scent of lavender carried from his travels. The smell mingles with that of the laundry, wet wool, and soap, creating an intriguing aroma that captures Aurelia's attention. The attendants continue their work around them, occasionally breaking into hushed conversations about various household matters or trading banter among themselves as they labor. They move with practiced ease through the routine tasks, each one knowing exactly what needs to be done when. Lucius watches this scene unfold for a moment before turning his gaze back to Aurelia and asks in a voice that carries just above the murmur of activity around them. What's the real point of scrubbing away at those tunic stains? Will anyone even notice if they're not perfect? Aurelia sets aside her comb and begins rummaging through a nearby basket for something. She finds what she needs, a small waxy candle made from beeswax and olive oil that serves as an all-purpose cleaning tool. Honestly, Aurelia replies with a raised eyebrow at Lucius's question. I think people notice when they can tell you've tried to get rid of the stains, especially on formal garments like those. People are more concerned about presentation than perfection. Lucius snorts softly and leans back in his chair as Aurelia hands him the candle. As he takes it from her, Lucius's fingers brush against hers for an instant, causing a gentle jolt between them that neither acknowledges aloud but each feels, however fleetingly. The moment is brief enough to be dismissed by both parties, yet carries within it threads of connection, a shared understanding born from being family. The laundry attendant working on the tunic glances up once more at Lucius and nods respectfully before returning to their task with renewed focus. Patrician, sir, they say quietly as an aside to Aurelia. If you'll excuse me, I almost have that stain out now. Aurelia smiles softly in response. As Lucius leans back into his chair, the fire crackles behind him, casting shadows on the walls of the hut and creating a sense of calm within. The quiet atmosphere is filled with the gentle hum of conversation among the attendants as they continue their work around them, all going about their routines without pause or interruption. In this peaceful background din, Lucius seems almost lost in thought for an instant before breaking into a wry comment, and I suppose that's what makes life so eventful. The endless struggle with stains. Aurelia chuckles lightly at her cousin's words as she picks up the comb to continue working on her tangled hair. As they sit together, Lucius becomes increasingly absorbed in watching the attendants labor around them, observing how each one falls into their role within this tiny domain of household routines. Their individual stories blend with those of Aurelia and Lucius themselves, forming a tapestry that seems as ordinary yet meaningful to its inhabitants as any grand affair. The light streaming through the open doorway dances across the scene before it begins to wane, leaving an evening haze in its wake, softening everything until even the shadows on the walls seem tranquil. As dusk settles over the laundry hut, Lucius leans forward once more and sets a hand gently on his sister's shoulder. I think I'll help with those tunic stains now, he suggests softly to Aurelia as if sharing some long-held secret, one that only comes out when they are alone together like this. With a quiet acceptance of the shift in roles, Aurelia hands him the candle and moves aside to allow Lucius into her place beside the tub. Together, with his gentle touch on their skin and hers guiding his hand as he works, they begin tackling those stubborn stains once more, each movement practiced, but somehow shared between them. And so it goes, a quiet exchange of roles within this laundry hut scene where one cousin takes over from another in working out the intricacies of stain removal. As they worked, the sound of sizzling fat and simmering sauce wafted from the kitchen, mingling with the scent of fresh laundry hung out to dry on wooden frames outside. The cousin taking over from another carefully selected a small brush, its bristles stiff with lanolin to coax away a particularly recalcitrant stain. His eyes narrowed in concentration as he gently scrubbed at the stubborn mark. The others watched in silence, their hands moving automatically through the motions of folding and hanging clothes. One of them idly picked up a thread from a loose seam on her tunic, examining it with an experienced eye before setting it aside to be mended later. Another used a small stone to rub away the stubborn ink stains that had been resisting treatment all morning. The cousin scrubbing at the stain muttered under his breath as he worked, a low, steady stream of commentary that was more solace than concern. The other workers didn't interrupt him. They knew better than to distract someone in the middle of this delicate process. Instead, they went about their tasks with quiet focus, leaving the conversation for later. In another corner of the laundry hut, two younger cousins sat cross-legged on a mat, sorting through baskets of freshly washed clothes. They chattered quietly among themselves as they worked, not talking too loudly, but happy to share stories and jokes in hushed tones while their elders labored at more intricate tasks. One young cousin was particularly proud of herself for having managed to remove an impressive stain from her brother's tunic earlier that morning. She'd spent several minutes carefully applying a mixture of vinegar and olive oil before scrubbing it away with a soft bristled brush. Not exactly the right technique, perhaps, but one she'd learned watching her sisters-in-law in their own home. Now, as they worked through these baskets together, she kept glancing up at her brother, grinning triumphantly whenever his eyes met hers. He smiled back good-naturedly, shaking his head and winking, a small gesture that acknowledged both the stain's removal and the sibling rivalry involved in its achievement. These everyday moments of life as a Roman slave might seem trivial to outsiders. The endless cycle of laundry, cooking, cleaning, the constant focus on domestic tasks. Yet for those living through it all, such activities were woven deeply into their fabric, more than just chores or duties, but integral aspects of daily existence that brought comfort and meaning. The cousin with the stubborn stain finally gave up his struggle against it. With a sigh of resignation, he set aside brush and cloth to move on to another garment altogether, leaving behind an imperfect job, as some stains could never be fully removed without potentially damaging fabric or color. For now, though, this piece of clothing would have to suffice, its imperfections like the wearer's own skin, imperfect but still worn with quiet dignity. As he moved along through his task list, another cousin called out from across the hut that it was almost time for lunch. The group paused in their work as the younger cousins began carrying large wooden bowls filled with steaming food into the central area of the laundry hut. The smell of slow-cooked vegetables and bread wafted up to mix with the scent of fresh laundry, reminding everyone that despite these daily labors, life did continue beyond this single room. Beyond cleaning clothes, beyond tending fires, beyond endless tasks. There existed an entire world outside where their masters lived in relative comfort. For now, though, such worries were set aside as they ate together, hands moving over plates filled with simple fare but enjoyed all the same for its taste and companionship, not fancy feasts but everyday sustenance. The young cousin who'd removed that stubborn stain looked up at her brother once more. Their eyes met briefly before she turned back to eating, both of them lost in conversation about family gossip or school events. The group ate quickly, savoring the food without indulging too much, no excess here but practical nourishment. Some lingered over cups filled with a thin broth flavored by herbs from the nearby gardens. Others merely took their leave as soon as they'd finished eating. Once everyone had been fed and the meal area was cleaned up again, work resumed in earnest, washing and folding, dyeing woolen garments or mending torn seams. Yet even amidst these ceaseless labors there existed small pockets of joy, found perhaps not just through conversation, but through simple actions like sharing stories during breaks between tasks. For those working within the confines of this laundry hut on a typical Roman day, it was less about grand gestures than finding everyday moments to connect with one another. The scent of freshly baked bread wafts through the narrow alleyway, carrying with it the promise of a mid-morning snack for those who venture too far from their daily routines. You are standing near one such laundry hut, its wooden door slightly ajar to allow for a gentle breeze to circulate within. The soft hum of conversation mingles with the clinking of pots and pans as women go about their work. Inside this humble abode, the atmosphere is thick with the smell of soap, water, and sweat. The air is heavy but not oppressive, as it carries the scent of freshly laundered clothing wafting through the steamy space. You notice a small wooden tub filled to the brim with suds from crushed olive leaves, its surface reflecting the faint light that filters in through the narrow windows. One of the women, her name is Orlia, carefully rinses out a delicate garment, her hands moving deftly as she works. Her eyes are tired, but her movements remain steady and deliberate, honed by years of experience with soap and water. The sounds within this hut, the gentle lapping of water against metal, the soft murmur of conversation, and the occasional clink of a utensil being placed back in its spot on the wall-mounted rack, create an ambience that is both soothing and industrious. Orlia's hands move with practiced ease as she gathers the rinsed garment and begins to gently squeeze out excess water. Her fingers deftly separate the fabric, allowing for even drying, before hanging it carefully from a nearby clothesline suspended between two wooden posts within the hut. As she works, her eyes drift toward you, their gaze curious but not intrusive. Outside, the morning sun casts its warm rays across the cobblestone streets of Rome, illuminating ancient stone buildings and worn pavement. The air is filled with the sounds of vendors calling out their daily wares, fresh produce, baked goods, and hot bread as people go about their day. Amidst this bustle, you notice a young scribe hurrying down the alleyway, his scrolls tucked securely under one arm. As he passes by the laundry hut, Orlia's gaze lingers on him for an instant before she returns to her work. The scribe doesn't seem to have noticed. Instead, his attention is fixed intently on some point in front of him. His footsteps slow as he reaches a section where several buildings converge into one corner, forming a small courtyard. Here, amidst the worn pavement and ancient stone walls, stands an unassuming inscription. It's weathered but legible. The date reads 45 BCE, marking it several years after Julius Caesar's assassination. The scribe halts in front of this marker, his head cocked slightly to one side as he studies its surface. Your own curiosity piqued by his interest, you step closer alongside him, though Orlia and her companions remain within the hut, lost in their daily routines. As you observe the inscription more closely, a small detail catches your eye. There seems to be an inconsistency with other records regarding dates of notable events during this period. The scribe's gaze lingers on the marker for several moments before he nods slightly to himself and continues on his way, scrolls tucked securely under one arm. His footsteps fade into the din of Roman life as you remain fixed in front of the inscription, pondering the inconsistency that caught your attention. As morning wears on, more people begin to pass by, a group of children playing near the hut's entrance, their laughter carrying above the murmur of conversation within. An elderly man slowly making his way down the alleyway with a cane, and several merchants unloading goods from nearby carts. Amidst this steady stream of activity, you can't help but feel drawn to the mystery that seemed hidden in plain sight on that ancient stone. A gentle breeze stirs through the alleyway now, carrying whispers of the city's vibrant life, its sounds, smells, and stories blending together into a rich tapestry that envelops you completely. Your footsteps move with those around you as if drawn by an unseen thread, weaving your path alongside theirs in this eternal dance of daily routines. With each passing moment, the morning wears on, casting a warm glow across Rome's ancient stones. As shadows deepen slightly in the corners of buildings and people begin to adjust their pace according to the growing heat, your footsteps carry you closer toward that laundry hut where Aurelia and her companions work tirelessly amidst steamy air filled with soap suds. There is something comforting about being within these walls. Perhaps it's the familiarity of routine or the promise of fresh, clean clothing carried by the scent of newly laundered fabrics. You pause for a moment outside, feeling the gentle breeze carry you through as if offering respite from the bustling streets beyond. Inside, Orlia and her companions continue their work with measured pace and quiet efficiency, each movement calculated to extract every last drop of soap suds without leaving behind any residue that could spoil or damage delicate fabrics. It's a rhythm born of long practice and years spent honing these skills in this very space. As you step back into the hut, your footsteps quiet on the cool stone floor, drawing attention from those nearby. Aurelia's gaze drifts toward you once more, her eyes questioning but not intrusive, a brief flash of curiosity before returning to the task at hand. It is moments like these that remind you why this place feels so much like home. And yet, amidst all the comfort and familiarity within these walls, your mind keeps drifting back to that scribe who paused by the inscription earlier in his day's journey. His footsteps seemed to echo through your thoughts as he vanished into the crowd, leaving behind a question: what if those dates were not just minor discrepancies but actual truths waiting to be unraveled? As you lay on your pallet, surrounded by the faint scent of olive oil and the soft murmur of evening conversations from outside, a shiver runs down your spine. The thought of those missing scribes lingers in your mind like an unfulfilled promise. You can't shake off the feeling that their disappearance is more than just a series of unfortunate events. You recall the countless days spent poring over dusty scrolls and crumbling tablets, searching for any mention of these vanished individuals. Your eyes would scan each line, hoping to stumble upon a hint, a whisper, really, about what might have become of them. But like so many other forgotten pages, those stories remained hidden beneath the whispers of history. As you delve deeper into your thoughts, memories begin to resurface from that day when the young scribe paused by the inscription on the wall. His footsteps seemed to echo through the streets as he vanished into the crowd, leaving behind a question: what if those dates were not just minor discrepancies but actual truths waiting to be unraveled? You remember how your mentor would often caution you against such flights of fancy. Discrepancies are simply that, he'd say with an air of finality. Minor mistakes in recording the past. But now, as a seasoned scribe yourself, you begin to wonder if there's more to it. The evening outside is growing darker, and the flickering torches on the walls cast eerie shadows across your face. You rise from your pallet, feeling an inexplicable restlessness wash over you. It's time for a walk, not just any walk, but one that takes you back through the winding streets of Rome to the spot where the young scribe paused by the inscription. As you step out into the night air, the cool breeze carries with it whispers from the past. You close your eyes and let its secrets wash over you. The buildings seem taller now, their shadows deepening like mysteries waiting to be unraveled. You make your way through crowded marketplaces, sidestepping merchants hawking their wares for one last sale of the day. They glance at you with a mixture of curiosity and suspicion as you navigate through their stalls with an air that's both hurried and purposeful. The moon has begun its ascent in the night sky by the time you reach the spot where the young scribe paused. The inscription is still there, but this evening it seems to hold secrets more profound than ever before. You study each symbol etched into its surface, a hieroglyphic sequence that appears innocuous at first glance. Your mind reels as you recall fragments of your studies on ancient scripts and languages from across the empire. There's something peculiar about these symbols, something hidden beneath their seemingly mundane meaning. You feel an itch in your fingers to transcribe them anew, hoping this time to decipher a code that was meant to remain concealed. The air grows thick with anticipation as you bend closer to examine each line more intently. Your eyes begin to water from the exertion of concentration, but still, they refuse to give up their secret. You feel like an archaeologist unearthing ancient artifacts, the thrill and terror of discovery pulsating through your veins. Suddenly, a gust of wind blows down the street, sending loose papers swirling around you. In the chaos that follows, one sheet catches your eye. It's a fragment from an old scroll tucked between two market stalls for safekeeping. The parchment is worn thin in places, but still holds its secrets like a parched traveler clutching a water skin. With trembling hands, you smooth out the creases and gaze upon the text. It appears to be part of a letter written by one of your vanished scribes, a message intended for another who seems equally elusive. You recognize parts of an ancient dialect familiar only in whispers among the oldest texts stored deep within the temple's labyrinthine vaults. A chill runs down your spine as realization hits you like a rainstorm after a long drought. What if those dates on the tombstones weren't minor discrepancies but hidden keys, waiting to unlock more than just forgotten lives? The acrid tang of wood smoke clings to your skin like a damp shroud. You're standing outside the city's eastern gate, where the morning sun casts long shadows across the cobblestone streets. The air is heavy with the scent of burning charcoal and the distant hint of seawater carried on the breeze. As you make your way through the crowded market stalls, the sounds of vendors calling out their wares, fresh fish from Ostia, golden honey from Herculaneum, gradually give way to the cacophony of city life, the clanging of hammers on metal, the rumble of carts over cobblestones, and the constant chatter of pedestrians. You weave through the throng, careful not to bump into anyone carrying a bulky amphora or struggling under the weight of a freshly baked loaf. The aroma of roasting meat wafts from the nearby Thermopolis, a small food shop that serves as a gathering place for locals and travelers alike. Inside, you see rows of steaming pots suspended over clay braziers, their contents bubbling away like miniature geysers. The cook, a gruff but kind-eyed man named Marcus, greets you with a nod as he expertly flips a chunk of meat onto a wooden skewer. You take your usual place at the counter next to a young woman sipping a cup of wine. Her name is Aurelia, and she's always been friendly. As you wait for your turn in line, Marcus hands out small balls of flatbread with an assortment of dips and spreads. You sample a few bites while chatting with Aurelia about everything from the latest news on the games to the peculiar habits of the local priests. The Thermopolis is a hub of activity. People come here not just for food, but also to catch up on gossip, share stories, or simply sit in quiet companionship amidst the bustle. A nearby group of elderly men are engaged in a heated debate about the merits of different gladiatorial contests. Further down the counter, a pair of traveling merchants enthusiastically discuss their latest shipment of exotic spices. Your food arrives, a generous portion of roasted pork with vegetables and a side of olives, and you take your first bite. The flavors explode on your tongue, sweet, salty, tangy, and rich all at once. Aurelia raises an eyebrow in approval as Marcus recommends trying the new batch of pickled garlic that's been fermenting for weeks. As you eat, you notice a small group gathered near the corner of the market. They seem to be discussing something in hushed tones. One of them catches your eye and nods slightly. It's Lucius, an old friend from your days as a student at the nearby grammar school. You wave discreetly in his direction before turning back to Aurelia. And then I told him, Aurelia says with a chuckle, that if he couldn't handle one small sacrifice for the sake of love and family honor, sacrificing that ridiculous golden statue, you know. Well, there's no hope for our generation at all. She glances at her cup as she speaks, her hand absently tracing the curves etched into its ceramic body. You listen attentively, intrigued by Aurelia's tale of woe. As a student, you'd often join in on lively debates about politics and ethics, but those discussions always seemed to devolve into heated arguments within hours. Now, as an adult, you find yourself drawn into the intricate web of relationships that binds this small community together. Marcus approaches with another tray of food, which he expertly distributes among the patrons before refilling their cups and pitchers. You take a sip from your cup, slightly warm wine mixed with water and honey, served in delicate clay vessels adorned with subtle patterns, as you listen to Aurelia's story unfold. As the morning wears on, the sun begins its slow climb higher in the sky. Shadows retreat across the streets, revealing more of the intricate mosaics embedded into the pavement. The scent of wood smoke gradually gives way to the pungent aroma of fresh bread wafting from nearby bakeries, their ovens fired up for another day's production. You finish your meal and bid farewell to Aurelia before stepping out into the morning crowd once more. Lucius catches up with you near the city gate, falling into step beside you as you make your way back through the winding streets of Rome. "What do you think?" he asks quietly, his voice low enough not to disturb the nearby market activity. "Do you believe in those rumors about a lost temple deep beneath the city?" You raise an eyebrow. Lucius often gets carried away with his theories and legends. But something in his tone hints at more than just idle curiosity. I'm not sure, you reply carefully, thinking back on all the stories you've heard over the years. But what if those dates on the tombstones weren't minor discrepancies but hidden keys, waiting to unlock more than just forgotten lives? Lucius nods thoughtfully as he navigates through a tight cluster of pedestrians with you at his side. For now, both of you are lost in your own worlds, the one where ancient legends hide secrets and mysteries beneath every stone. As you continue walking, the sounds around you grow louder. Children's laughter carries from an adjacent alleyway. Someone yells out in excitement as a street performer starts juggling nearby. While above it all, the distant sound of hammering on metal echoes through the city like a drum beat. As you wade through the cacophony, your senses begin to separate from one another. The din of children's laughter and the street performers' antics grows louder still, but it's the smell that truly seizes your attention. You breathe in deeply, and a noxious wave washes over you, the stench of garbage, of human waste, of cooking oil and burning wood. You weave through the crowded streets, trying to avoid getting too close to any one vendor or performer. The air is thick with the smell of roasting meats. Pork, lamb, and chicken all compete for dominance on your nostrils. But beneath it all, a pungent undertone lurks, the acrid tang of vinegar, used to clean floors and wash clothes. As you continue your journey through ancient Rome's streets, sweat begins to trickle down your skin. The sun beats down relentlessly, casting long shadows across the cobblestones. You feel like an insect trapped in a terrarium. Every step takes on monumental importance as you navigate between towering buildings and narrow alleyways. Your footsteps echo off the stone facades, making it seem like an entire army is following close behind. But it's just your own ragged breathing that fills the air, your lungs burning from the exertion of walking through this teeming metropolis. You pause at a street corner to take in the sights and smells around you. A nearby food vendor holds up a tray laden with steaming dishes, boiled vegetables, roasted meats, and what looks suspiciously like bread made from barley flour. The aroma wafts towards you on waves of savory spices, cumin, coriander, and thyme mingling together in perfect harmony. To one side, an old woman hobbles past, her hands clasped tightly around a clay jug. She's carrying what looks like the day's water supply for her household, a precious commodity to be cherished and guarded closely. On her shoulder hangs a linen cloth, its folds stained with dirt and grime from days of hard labor. As you watch this woman disappear into the crowd, you're struck by the realization that every person on these streets is fighting some sort of battle, against hunger, thirst, or disease, for status, recognition, or survival. The city itself seems a massive beast, always hungry, always ravenous, but also capricious and unpredictable. Your journey takes you deeper into the heart of Rome's slums now. Narrow alleys give way to cramped courtyards where laundry hangs from balconies like colorful tapestries, while down below, an elderly man scrubs at a stone fountain with a stiff brush, his movements methodical but hopeless in their futility. The sounds around you have begun to take on a new rhythm, not just the shouts and haggling of vendors or performers, but also the murmur of conversations carried on by people who think they're out of earshot. It's as if every person here has an opinion on politics, philosophy, or the relative merits of different types of olive oil. Your eyes wander to a nearby forum where philosophers are gathered in animated debate. Cicero stands among them, his words dripping with eloquence as he champions the cause of individual freedom against encroaching tyranny. Nearby, a group of women huddle over an ancient scroll, their voices rising and falling like waves on a turbulent sea. As you press onward through this city alive with argument and counterargument, your thoughts begin to meander in unexpected directions. What does it mean to be free? Who decides what's true or false? How do the gods speak to mortals like us when they're silent and still? Your walk takes on a more contemplative air now, not just navigating through streets, but trying to grasp at threads of meaning that seem always just out of reach. The scent of burning wax wafts through the air, carrying with it the faint tang of smoke and the promise of warmth. As you walk, the sounds of the city grow louder. Vendors calling out their wares, horses' hooves pounding against the cobblestones, and the low murmur of conversation from nearby taverns. You weave through the crowds, dodging a cart laden with fresh produce as it makes its way down the street. Your feet carry you on autopilot now, your mind still grappling with the questions that plagued you earlier. What does it mean to be free? Who decides what's true or false? How do the gods speak to mortals like us when they're silent and still? The sun beats down upon your skin, its warm rays seeping into the worn leather of your sandals. You feel the weight of the day settle onto you, a physical manifestation of the exhaustion that comes with trying to make sense of it all. As you round a corner, the imposing structure of the Colosseum rises up before you, its massive stone facade seeming almost otherworldly in the fading light. The air is thick with the smell of dust and decay, but beneath that lies another scent, the sweet tang of fresh wood carried on the breeze from the nearby carpenter's shop. Your eyes roam over the intricate carvings adorning the walls, each one telling a story of battles fought and won, of emperors risen to power. You find yourself lost in their details, wondering which hands crafted these precise cuts, which chisels struck down into the stone with such precision. A group of workers hammers away at the stone, their rhythmic blows echoing through the air as they labor on some new project or repair. You watch for a moment, mesmerized by the way their sweat-soaked brows glisten in the fading light, before continuing on your way. As you navigate the winding streets, the sun dips lower and lower until it's nothing more than a burning ember above the rooftops. The air cools slightly, carrying with it the scent of evening meals being prepared. Roasting meat, simmering stews, and fresh-baked bread waft through the air like promises. You find yourself in front of a small bakery, its door wide open to let in the last remnants of daylight. Inside, you see rows upon rows of golden loaves stacked haphazardly on wooden shelves, their crust still sticky with moisture from being pulled fresh from the oven just moments before. The baker's hands move with practiced ease as he shapes dough into perfectly formed balls, each one a testament to his skill and patience. His face is creased with lines of hard work, but his eyes sparkle with a quiet contentment that seems almost otherworldly in its intensity. You push open the door, stepping across the threshold into a space filled with warmth and the scent of fresh bread. The baker looks up as you enter, his gaze flicking to your face before returning to the task at hand. For an instant, you see something there, something like curiosity or perhaps even kindness. But it's gone in an instant, replaced by a gruff nod as he continues working. The air inside is thick with heat and the scent of baking bread, carrying on its waves the remnants of earlier meals. Leftover scraps of meat, stale crusts from yesterday's loaves. You breathe deeply, letting the smells settle into your lungs like the comforting weight of a well-worn blanket. Your hands find their way to the edge of a wooden counter, resting there as you take in the sights and scents around you. Your gaze roams over rows of neatly stacked jars filled with pickled vegetables, alongside baskets heaped high with freshly baked bread. The baker's wife works behind him, her dark hair tied back under a linen cap, her hands moving deftly as she shapes small loaves into perfectly uniform balls. Their work is steady and unending, the rhythm of their labor woven seamlessly into the fabric of everyday life like so many other mundane tasks. They shape bread day after day with precision and care that borders on reverence. Each loaf a testament to hard-won skill passed down through generations, an heirloom made tangible in every perfectly rounded crumb. Your attention is caught by one of these loaves, its crust still slightly sticky from being pulled fresh from the oven just moments before. You find yourself drawn into the quiet intimacy of this moment, this small act that speaks to something fundamental about human connection and shared experience. The baker glances up at you once more, his gaze lingering on your face for a fraction of a second longer than necessary. For an instant, it seems like he might speak, say something to acknowledge your presence or break the silence that has settled between you, but instead, he looks back down at the dough in front of him and continues working. The moment passes as quietly as it began, leaving behind only the faint impression of connection that lingers on the edge of awareness. You stand there for a while longer, hands resting against the counter's worn wood, eyes lost in the soft glow of early evening light streaming through the bakery door. Time stretches out before you like an unfurled scroll, each passing moment marked by the steady beat of your own heart and the gentle rise of bread dough as it bakes to perfection. As you stand there, the warm aroma of freshly baked bread wafts through your senses, transporting you to a world where time stands still and all that matters is the gentle rise of dough, the soft crackle of flames in the oven, and the soothing rhythm of your own heartbeat. The early evening light streaming through the bakery door casts a golden glow on the worn wooden counter beneath which your head rests, heavy with the weight of 3 sleepless days. Your thoughts drift back to the day's events, or rather the lack thereof. 3 days have passed since you last slept, and in that time you've witnessed countless gladiatorial battles within the Colosseum's hallowed walls. The roar of the crowd still echoes through your mind like a cacophony of screams and cheers. You can almost taste the sweat and blood on your lips. The baker stirs beside you, his hands deftly shaping dough into perfectly uniform loaves. He works with a precision that borders on reverence, as if each loaf is an offering to the gods themselves. His eyes flicker toward yours for a brief moment before returning to their task, but he doesn't speak, nor do you expect him to. The silence between you has become almost palpable over these sleepless days. You recall the first day's events with clarity, a packed schedule of battles and performances that seemed to blur together in an endless tapestry of sound and fury. You witnessed a young gladiator, barely out of his teens, fall to the arena floor after being struck by a stray blow from a fellow fighter. The crowd's reaction had been almost primal, some screaming for blood, others crying tears as they realized their hero was gone. The second day saw more battles, a sprawling melee between heavily armored warriors wielding massive scimitars, and an eerie duel between two opponents armed with nothing but small sticks in the darkness of the arena. Your mind struggled to keep pace with the unfolding chaos. And then today, or rather, what felt like an eternity ago, you bore witness to something that will forever be etched into your memory. A pair of condemned prisoners sentenced to fight each other to the death. The tension had been almost unbearable as they faced off in the arena's center. Their movements were fluid and practiced, but beneath the surface you sensed a deep-seated desperation. That event had sparked something within you. Perhaps it was the realization that even amidst such brutality there existed moments of fleeting beauty, the calculated dance between opponents, the stark juxtaposition of life and death in the flickering torchlight. Whatever the reason, your mind has been racing ever since, refusing to let go of those images. As night begins to fall outside, casting long shadows across the bakery's interior, you feel a sudden weariness wash over you. Your body screams for respite from these endless days without rest, but it seems that fate is not ready to grant you your due just yet. The baker continues his work, oblivious to the turmoil brewing within you. His fingers dance across the dough with an almost hypnotic precision, shaping each loaf into a perfect replica of its predecessor. You watch in silence as he works, transfixed by the rhythmic motion, almost mesmerized by the gentle rise and fall of the loaves. Your eyelids grow heavy, weighted down by the accumulation of exhaustion from these sleepless days. For an instant, it seems that you might finally surrender to the weariness, letting go of your grip on reality as the world around you dissolves into darkness. But something within holds fast, a spark of determination or perhaps merely stubbornness. You force yourself upright, bracing against the counter's worn wood for support. The baker looks up at this movement, his expression questioning but unspoken. You offer him a weak smile and nod toward the oven. "More bread," you say in a barely audible whisper, though it seems an eternity has passed since your last words. As night deepens outside, you turn away from the bakery's warmth, into the darkness of the city beyond. The scent of damp stone wafts up from the cobblestone streets, a musty reminder that the sun has long since set on this forgotten quarter. You find yourself standing near the entrance to the narrow alleyway known as Vicus Longa, where crumbling facades seem to lean inwards, as if sharing secrets with one another. As you stand there, the weight of your own fatigue becomes apparent. A dull ache in the small of your back from carrying water jugs all day, and the prickling sensation on your skin from walking through the humid evening air. Your eyes adjust slowly to the dim light that filters down these alleys, faint stars twinkling above, but no moonlight visible yet. You take a deep breath, feeling the cool night air fill your lungs as you gaze up at the facade of the adjacent domus. Its owner, a senator's widow named Aurelia Paula, has installed new shutters that cast intricate patterns on the wall, an attempt to modernize her property without going over budget. Your attention is drawn back down to street level by the sound of laughter and clinking vessels from the nearby Thermopolis. It seems you're not alone in seeking solace from tonight's chill. Patrons have begun gathering for a late-night wine service, despite it being well past curfew time. Tonight's special honeyed passum wine, served chilled with crushed olives, is said to be particularly fine. You notice the Thermopolis staff expertly handling serving cups and pouring wines without spilling a drop. This kind of efficiency comes from years of practice under the watchful eyes of their manager, an ex-slave named Marcus. The atmosphere within is lively yet hushed, patrons sharing stories in low tones while keeping an ear out for any signs of approaching guards. A commotion nearby catches your attention. One of the city's notorious groups, a gang of minor artisans and market vendors called the New Guild, has formed near the entrance to Vicus Longa. They seem to be organizing some sort of impromptu rally or demonstration. Hastily scrawled chalkboard signs held aloft display slogans like "Fair market prices now" and "Stop imperial profiteering." It's unclear what this protest is about, perhaps a recent price hike on imported goods. Or maybe the latest edict from the emperor requiring artisans to pay for licensing fees just to ply their trade. Whatever its cause, it appears that these new guild members are trying to rouse support among passers-by. You feel yourself growing heavier with each passing moment, fatigue and curiosity pitted against a lingering unease at being caught up in something you don't fully understand. Your eyes drift towards the Thermopolis again as patrons continue their merriment, now accompanied by distant sounds of chanting from the new guild rally. And then it's almost too much. The cacophony of laughter and shouted slogans, clinking cups and stamping feet, all swirling together into a heady mix that makes your thoughts jumble. You feel yourself losing interest in this scene. What started as curiosity now feels like an overwhelming burden. You push away from Vicus Longa's entrance, trying to escape the commotion by retreating deeper into the Forgotten Quarter. As you move down the darkening alleyway, shadows cast by flickering torches create a staccato beat against your skin, reminding you of the city's hidden rhythms and unseen worlds. You turn onto another narrow passageway, this one almost completely unlit, except for an occasional glow emanating from someone's window high above. Tonight feels like it belongs to the forgotten, a time when shadows come alive with whispered secrets and half-remembered legends, when even the stars seem hidden behind veils of pollution from countless candles lit throughout the city. Your footsteps become more deliberate as you pick your way through this gloom, eyes scanning for any sign of danger. This part of town is said to be riddled with escaped slaves, petty thieves, and rogue vendors, all trying to eke out a living in an urban landscape where survival often means adapting or disappearing altogether. You pause at the entrance to another alleyway, noticing that some passers-by are beginning to avoid this particular route. Rumors have been circulating about strange happenings here, whispers of curses placed on certain buildings by outraged spirits, reports of possessions stolen from homes nearby, and more disturbingly still, people disappearing altogether. The thought hangs with you as you step into the alleyway, feeling a growing sense of unease with each passing moment. It's almost as if the shadows themselves are watching your every move. As you step into the alleyway, the air grows thick with an unsettling silence. The flickering torches that line the narrow passageway cast eerie shadows on the walls, making it seem as though the very darkness itself is moving, twisting, and writhing like a living thing. You can't shake the feeling that you're being herded deeper into this labyrinthine quarter, further from the relative safety of the city's main streets. Your eyes adjust slowly to the dim light, and you begin to make out the rough outlines of buildings on either side, crumbling tenements, their wooden facades worn smooth by time and weather. The air reeks of decay and neglect, rotting food, stagnant water, and the acrid scent of something burning but not quite fire. You continue down the alleyway, your footsteps echoing off the walls as you try to put some distance between yourself and whatever it is that's watching you from the shadows. The silence is oppressive, punctuated only by an occasional hooting owl or distant shout from a passing vendor on the main street. Your heart beats faster with every step, as though anticipating something terrible lurking just out of sight. A faint rustling sound catches your ears soft at first, but growing louder with each passing moment. You turn to see a figure emerging from the depths of the alleyway. A young woman, her dark hair disheveled and a look of desperation etched on her face. She darts towards you with an almost frantic energy, as though seeking refuge in your presence. "Please," she gasps, grabbing at your arm. "You have to help me." Her eyes dart back over her shoulder, as if checking that no one's watching before focusing intently on yours. You catch a whiff of the scent of sweat and fear emanating from her. It's not unlike the smell that clings to you after a long day in the Forum. "What is it?" you ask gently, trying to keep your voice steady despite the sudden surge of adrenaline. "They're taking them," she whispers, glancing around nervously once more. "At night when no one can see. They just take people." You frown, unsure what to make of her words. The disappearances in the neighborhood have been a mystery so far. Some think it's bandits or escaped slaves, while others whisper about dark magic and human sacrifice. As if echoing your own thoughts, she leans in closer still, her voice barely audible above a whisper. "It's not just anyone. They're taking those who don't fit. The ones with marks on them, you know what I mean." Her gaze flicks to the intricate network of scars on your forearm, ancient souvenirs from countless hours spent battling and scrapping in the city's underbelly. Your heart skips a beat as she seems to take it for granted that you understand exactly what she means. "I have seen them," she continues, her voice rising with urgency now. "The ones who come at night. They're not like us. They don't care about gold or food, only the marks on your skin." She looks around nervously once more before fixing you with a desperate stare. "Please, help me find my sister." "Well, she was taken yesterday evening. I've tried to follow them, but they seem to vanish into nothingness." The air seems to grow colder still as she pauses for breath, and in the brief silence that follows, your imagination runs wild with images of shadowy figures lurking just out of sight, stalking their prey through Rome's forgotten streets. Your mind is racing now. Do you believe her? What if this sister of hers really does exist, or was taken by those who have vanished into the night? You can feel yourself getting pulled deeper and deeper into a mystery that seems to grow more sinister with each passing moment. The scent of damp stone and old wood wafts up from beneath your feet as you step into the dimly lit atrium. The air inside is stale, thick with the smell of last night's dinner still lingering on the walls. You can feel the coolness seep through the soles of your shoes, a gentle reminder that this house has seen many winters. As you make your way deeper into the atrium, the sounds of the household begin to reveal themselves. The murmur of conversation from the adjacent rooms, the occasional clinking of pottery as someone reaches for a cup or plate, and the low rumble of a servant's voice calling out a reminder about dinner. The soft glow of oil lamps casts flickering shadows on the walls, making it seem like the very stones themselves are shifting in the dim light. Your eyes adjust to the gloom, and you notice that the room is cluttered with the remnants of daily life. Discarded scrolls, half-empty jars of olives, and a few scattered coins on a nearby stool. It's clear that this household has been lived in for many years, perhaps even decades, and yet there's something endearingly haphazard about it all. You find yourself standing near the center of the atrium, surrounded by an assortment of family members who seem to be gathered around a small table. Your host, Marcus, is seated at one end of the table, his eyes fixed intently on some point in front of him as he engages in a heated conversation with another man, likely a neighbor or business associate. The air between them seems charged with tension. Every so often, Marcus's voice rises and falls like a wave, only to be met by an indignant response from the other man. You catch snippets of their discussion, something about olive trees perhaps. The names Gaius and Lucius are mentioned in passing, but it's clear that this is more than just a simple disagreement between two people. As you listen in on their conversation, your gaze wanders around the room, taking in the various details that reveal themselves to you. You notice that one of the family members, possibly Marcus's wife, seems to be quietly sewing something near the edge of the room. The soft scratch of her needle moving through fabric is a gentle counterpoint to the more intense conversation happening at the table. The olive tree debate continues, with neither side willing to yield an inch. You begin to pick up on certain phrases and words that seem to be used repeatedly. Justum, justice, proprius, one's own, and fides, faith. It becomes clear that this is more than just a simple disagreement about land ownership. There are deeper principles at stake here. Your host, Marcus, leans forward in his chair as he delivers what seems to be the final blow of his argument. The opposing party responds with a mixture of indignation and incredulity, but you can sense that they're beginning to tire. As the conversation winds down, you realize that this is more than just an intellectual exercise. There's something deeply personal at stake here. As the family begins to disperse after dinner, Marcus gets up from his chair and ambles over towards a nearby window. The warm glow of sunset spills in through the latticework grille above the panes, casting intricate patterns on the walls below. He stands for a moment, lost in thought as he gazes out into the fading light. Your eyes follow his gaze to the small patch of land outside, perhaps it's an olive grove. You notice that there are two trees standing side by side, one slightly larger than the other. A few more steps away from the house lies a third tree, smaller and younger looking than its companions. You realize that this trio must be at the heart of the controversy. Marcus is arguing with his neighbor over what's likely to be a small but significant plot of land, perhaps just enough for a single olive tree. You can sense that there's something almost primal about this dispute. It feels as though these two men are fighting not just over property rights, but also over some deeper aspect of their shared identity. Marcus returns from his reverie and takes a seat near the table once more. The air is heavy with unspoken emotions, or perhaps you're simply feeling the weight of your own exhaustion after listening to such an intense conversation. As dinner begins to wind down, Marcus gets up to clear the plates, leaving behind only the faint scent of olives on his hands. The evening wears on in a haze of low-key activity. Family members drift off into their various rooms for the night, while you linger near the edge of things, trying not to draw attention to yourself as you take it all in. Your gaze wanders around the room one last time, noticing how each person seems lost in their own little world before finally drifting off towards sleep. As your eyelids grow heavy and your thoughts begin to unfocus, you become aware of a faint sound coming from somewhere nearby, the soft clinking of coins on the floor above. Your host's voice is muffled but audible as he mutters something under his breath about this accursed tree, or perhaps it's just another part of his dreams. The sounds fade away into silence, leaving behind only the gentle creaking of wooden beams and the soft hum of crickets outside. As I drift further into slumber, my mind begins to wander back to my host's muttered complaints about that accursed tree. What could be so significant about a single olive tree? In our time, we've seen countless disputes over land and property, but never quite like this. I recall the day we arrived at his villa, surrounded by rows of lush green olives stretching towards the horizon. My host's eyes would light up as he spoke of his prized possessions: 3 vineyards, a modest herd of sheep, and the crown jewel, that single olive tree. He'd point to it proudly, saying something about its unique shape and exceptional yield. But what struck me was how passionate my host became whenever discussing the neighboring villa's owner, Lucius Marcellus. Theirs was an ancient feud, one that spanned generations. My host would shake his head in disgust at Lucius's methods, supposedly more interested in exploiting Rome's growing wealth than tending to his lands. According to rumor, Lucius had once tried to buy the olive tree from my host, offering a handsome sum and even threatening to withhold trade with our villa unless he sold. My host, ever the proud landowner, refused, fueling Lucius's resentment further. Over time, this single issue became the focal point of their long-standing feud. As I listen more closely to the distant hum of crickets, I begin to pick up on other sounds, a low murmur from my host as he tosses and turns in his bed nearby. His mutterings grow louder and I catch snippets. Foolish Lucius can't even tell good land from bad, followed by an indignant snort. The memories of that fateful day when the dispute between our villas reached its boiling point flood back into my mind. We'd been hosting a grand feast to celebrate the harvest season, with both villa owners and their families in attendance. Tensions simmered just below the surface as Lucius made an offhand comment about my host's poor olive yields being due to his inferior farming techniques. The usually affable atmosphere turned toxic that evening, with accusations flying back and forth across the table. Lucius claimed my host was hoarding water from their shared aqueduct, while my host retorted that Lucius's own lands were withering away due to neglect. As the night wore on, tempers flared until it seemed as if punches might fly. I remember feeling a mix of awe and trepidation at the spectacle, unsure whether our host's antics would boil over into violence. In the end, only the arrival of dark clouds and an impending storm managed to temper their passions, for now. The night air grows still once more, with my host's mutterings dying down as he settles back into a lighter sleep. The gentle creaking of wooden beams outside our room seems almost soothing in comparison to the rancorous sounds that had filled it just hours before. As I drift further into slumber, visions dance through my mind, images from past harvests and memories of our host's rivalry. Lucius Marcellus and his cunning smile, my host's indignant stance on defending his land. These recollections blend with the distant hum of crickets until even their sounds fade away. Now I find myself back in that very same olive grove, surrounded by trees swaying gently in the breeze. The air is heavy with the scent of ripening olives as my host stands beside me. Perhaps it's a dream within a dream. We gaze out upon his prized possessions, vines heavy with grapes and rows upon rows of neatly pruned olive branches. In this idyllic setting, I ask him about that accursed tree. He pauses for an instant before speaking softly, almost as if sharing a secret. Ah, yes. That one particular tree, it's not just any ordinary olive, he begins, his eyes glinting in the fading light of day. But my host remains vague on details, and I realize this must be part of some ancient family tale or local legend passed down through generations. The mystery deepens as our conversation hangs suspended between reality and dreams. In a moment that feels both dreamlike and disturbingly real, Lucius Marcellus appears beside us, his expression no longer one of sly amusement, but rather anger and frustration burning within his eyes. The sweet scent of fresh bread wafts through the air, carrying with it the faint tang of olive oil and the comforting aroma of a warm kitchen. It's a smell that always seems to linger in the morning, like a gentle promise of nourishment and sustenance for the day ahead. As we stand here, Lucius Marcellus still by our side, his anger simmering just beneath the surface, the sounds of Rome begin to stir around us. The clang of hammer on anvil echoes through the narrow alleys as blacksmiths start their daily work. The rhythmic thud-thud-thud, a reassuring beat that signals another day's labor is about to commence. We breathe in deeply, letting the aroma of bread and oil fill our lungs, and for a moment the tension between Lucius and us seems to dissipate. His gaze softens slightly as he looks around at the sleepy streets, taking in the row upon row of shops and stalls that line the Via Appia. "We should get some breakfast," he suggests quietly, his voice low and even. The words are barely above a whisper, but they carry a weighty significance, for Lucius Marcellus is not just any ordinary citizen of Rome. He's also one of its most influential engineers. His work on the city's infrastructure has transformed Rome into a bustling metropolis that rivals Egypt in grandeur and sophistication. As we follow him through the winding streets, the soundscape around us shifts from the clang of hammer to the chatter of vendors calling out their daily specials. We pass by stalls stacked high with fresh produce. Crisp lettuce leaves rustle against each other as a vendor expertly arranges them into neat pyramids. Nearby, a merchant displays an array of colorful spices that release pungent aromas whenever someone approaches. Lucius navigates these crowded streets with ease, his tall frame parting the sea of people like a ship cutting through calm waters. We walk alongside him in silence, taking in the vibrant tapestry of colors and sounds, a constant reminder that even in ancient Rome, life is never dull or predictable. Eventually, we arrive at a small bakery tucked away between two larger shops. Inside, the air is thick with heat from freshly baked loaves of bread. Lucius leads us to a counter where rows upon rows of golden brown rolls sit stacked like miniature pyramids, each one perfectly rounded and smooth as alabaster. The baker greets Lucius warmly, their faces lighting up in mutual recognition. "Ah, Marcellus, I see you're still as hungry as ever. the baker exclaims with a chuckle, expertly slicing through the nearest roll to reveal its fluffy interior. The smell of freshly baked bread wafts out, accompanied by the soft crunching sound as Lucius takes his first bite. As we watch him savor each morsel, we can't help but be struck by the sheer variety and complexity that goes into making this simple loaf of bread, from selecting the finest wheat to expertly kneading it just so. The artisan's craft is a testament not only to human ingenuity, but also to our deep-seated love for comfort food. The conversation turns to work, with Lucius regaling us with tales of Rome's ongoing construction projects, roads, aqueducts, and public buildings that will one day rival the great cities of Greece. As we listen intently, a faint hum begins to build in the background, the distant rumble of thousands of workers laboring on these massive undertakings. Lucius glances toward us with an expression both serious and wistful. "It's not all sunshine and rainbows," he admits quietly, his voice tinged with the weight of responsibility that comes with overseeing such monumental projects. "We've had our fair share of setbacks, labor disputes, equipment failures. But nothing quite like what happened yesterday." The words hang in the air as Lucius pauses to collect his thoughts, taking a sip from an adjacent jug filled with cool water. The sound of it hitting his parched lips is almost audible, and we can sense a hint of reluctance on his part, perhaps even embarrassment. Lucius's gaze drifts toward us once more, searching for something in our eyes that might give away our understanding or compassion. But he finds nothing but genuine interest, an unspoken willingness to listen without judgment. With this newfound trust established, Lucius takes another bite from the still warm loaf and leans back against the counter, letting out a sigh of resignation. "It started early," he begins in his characteristic measured tone. "One of my foremen came running into our offices, frantic about an accident on site. I rushed over to investigate only to find, well, it's difficult even thinking about now." A faint lull settles upon the bakery as Lucius takes a moment to collect himself, pausing in front of us with his expression twisted by conflicting emotions. For what seems like hours, he says nothing at all, merely stands there, lost in thought. In this quiet stillness, we can almost feel the weight of history bearing down on Rome's shoulders, its people struggling beneath a relentless barrage of construction projects that threaten to overwhelm even the greatest metropolis. The ache within Lucius Marcellus is palpable. An unspoken question hangs between him and us. What happens when human ingenuity collides with sheer scale? We're there, suspended in this momentary lull, waiting for Lucius's next words as Rome's construction projects loom large, their massive stone foundations digging deeper into the earth like some sort of giant metal mouth. As Lucius's voice cuts through the stillness, I feel a shiver run down my spine. The darkness seems to press in around us, making his words feel like a whispered secret shared among friends. "The construction of Rome," he begins, his tone measured and deliberate, "was a behemoth of human endeavor. Thousands upon thousands of workers labored day and night to build the great city's foundations, temples, basilicas, aqueducts. The monumental structures that would stand for centuries. I can almost see the scene unfolding before my mind's eye. Rows of sweat-drenched laborers hauling massive stone blocks into place, the clang of hammers on anvil as blacksmiths forged iron beams to support the weighty loads above. The sheer scale of it all is overwhelming, a logistical nightmare that would put even modern construction projects to shame. Rome, Lucius continues, was built with blood and sweat. Not just metaphorically. His words hang in the air like a challenge, daring me to confront the harsh realities he's about to reveal. I feel my heart rate quicken as anticipation builds within me. What does he have in store for us? The number of workers, Lucius begins slowly, is impossible to calculate with any degree of accuracy. But historians estimate anywhere from tens of thousands to hundreds of thousands died during the construction phase. The words drop like a stone into still water, sending ripples through my mind. I blink hard, trying to process this staggering claim. As we stand there in the darkness, Lucius's voice painting vivid pictures with each passing sentence, I start to realize that these numbers aren't just statistics, they're people, families torn apart by loss, loved ones mourning their fallen kin on the outskirts of Rome. The city's grandeur comes at a terrible cost. Lucius pauses for a moment, allowing his words to sink in before continuing. The Roman historian Livy estimated that over 30,000 workers died during the construction of the Appian Way alone. I gasp softly, it takes my breath away. 30,000. That's an entire city block full of people. Their lives lost in the pursuit of creating something greater than themselves. But, Lucius says with a hint of somberness creeping into his voice, the numbers for other construction projects are far more staggering. I strain to listen as he drops another bombshell. Some estimates put the death toll on the aqueducts, those mighty structures that brought water from distant sources to feed Rome's growing population, at over 100,000. I feel my mind reeling under this onslaught of statistics and human suffering. The more Lucius speaks, the more I realize just how little we think about the costs associated with building our world today. We talk about worker safety. Regulations are put in place to protect those who build our structures. But even so, it seems the lessons of ancient Rome remain largely unlearned. As the weight of these figures settles upon me, I glance around at my fellow travelers, still suspended in this dreamlike state, where we're witnessing history unfold. We exchange wordless glances. A silent understanding passes between us that we've stumbled into something far deeper and more complex than mere curiosity about ancient Rome's construction projects. The realization dawns on me. These numbers aren't just statistics or even victims of circumstance. They represent lives lost, stories left untold. All in service to the grand ambitions of human ingenuity. And it makes me wonder what happens when that ambition is allowed to consume us entirely. Lucius continues his tale without pause, each word dropping like a stone into the depths of our collective understanding. It's hard, he says softly, to separate fact from myth, but one thing remains certain. Rome was built on the backs of those who suffered in its creation. As I listen to Lucius speak, the world around me seems to fade away, leaving only this moment suspended between past and present, caught in a web of history's shadows. We stand there, witnesses to an ancient tragedy that still casts long shadows across our modern landscape. The scent of damp stone and forgotten history wafts through the air, a familiar yet unsettling perfume that clings to every surface like an old friend's lingering cologne. You stand in front of a worn marble statue, its chiseled features softened by centuries of neglect. The flickering torches cast eerie shadows on the walls as you ponder the tragic tale etched into this very spot. It was here, in the heart of ancient Rome, that the last Ptolemaic queen met her untimely demise. The cold night air carries a hint of wood smoke and damp earth, drawing your gaze to the nearby temple complex. The soft murmur of hushed conversations drifts from within, mingling with the creaking of wooden beams and the occasional snort of a sleeping animal. As you breathe in deeply, you feel the chill of the evening settle into your bones. To your left stands an imposing stone pedestal, its surface cracked and weathered like a well-worn book. On top, two ancient coins lie discarded, their mint condition now dulled by a thin layer of dust. A faint inscription on one coin reads, Ptolemai's Philopater, the queen's own name etched into the metal. Your fingers absently brush against the pedestal as you ponder the details surrounding her death. Rumors swirled that she was poisoned, perhaps by a member of her own court or even a rival dynasty seeking to exploit Rome's growing influence in Egypt. But with every new discovery, it seemed that more questions arose than answers. As night wears on, the temple complex grows quieter, its inhabitants retreating into their quarters for rest. The flickering torches cast eerie silhouettes against the walls as you continue your musings. Your footsteps echo through the empty corridors, punctuated by the occasional hoot of an owl in the nearby rooftops. Nearby, a faint scent of myrrh and roses wafts from a nearby votive offering, carried on the gentle breeze like a whispered promise. The fragrance is both familiar and out of place here, reminding you that even amidst ancient tragedy, there's always some semblance of beauty waiting to be found, hidden in plain sight. The moon rises above the cityscape, casting an eerie silver glow over the rooftops as it climbs higher into the night sky. Shadows dance across the walls like living things, beckoning your imagination to follow their winding paths through the labyrinthine streets below. You feel a sudden urge to immerse yourself in the quiet of this place, to breathe in the stillness and let its weight settle upon you like a shroud. Your eyes grow heavy as you succumb to the allure of rest, and for an instant, your thoughts blur like watercolors left too long in the sun. The sound of dripping water from somewhere nearby brings you back to reality, a gentle cadence that echoes through these ancient halls, reminding you that even amidst tragedy, life persists. You close your eyes, letting its soothing rhythm wash over you as the city outside slumbers fitfully beneath your gaze. Your fingers trail along the pedestal once more, tracing the faint grooves etched into its surface by countless hands before yours. With every subtle movement, a fragment of history seems to resurface, memories long buried under layers of dust and forgetfulness. It's here that you pause, suspended between two eras as the past bleeds slowly into your present. You breathe in deeply once more, allowing the night air to fill your lungs, rich with scents both familiar and forgotten. Time itself seems malleable within these ancient walls, distorted by centuries of stories etched upon stone, memories lingering like dust motes suspended in sunbeams. Every surface holds secrets waiting for an attentive ear, whispers of a civilization that spanned continents, dynasties risen and fallen with the tides. As you stand there, enveloped by this world where past and present blend into one muddled whole, the sound of dripping water ebbs into silence once more. Your thoughts settle like dust in forgotten corners of an abandoned room. In your mind's eye, the final hours leading up to Ptolemai's Philopator's untimely demise replay themselves. A jumbled tapestry woven from countless accounts and whispers, threads that entwine rumor with speculation, until reality becomes as elusive as sand beneath shifting dunes. It was said she lay on her bed of golden sheets, surrounded by attendants who watched in stunned silence as the queen succumbed to poison's subtle creep. Their faces pale with shock and despair, they whispered among themselves in hushed tones, their words a morbid symphony that echoed through these forgotten halls. Your footsteps creak softly against stone as you begin your meandering path towards rest, leaving behind the statue and its solemn presence for now. As night deepens around you, shadows grow longer on the walls like dark fingers reaching out to snuff the last embers of the day's warmth. The air cools still further, carrying the faint scent of wet wool from a nearby laundry area where worn garments lie spread upon stone slabs to dry beneath the morning sun. Your nostrils twitch with every subtle shift in temperature, your senses heightened as you move through this twilight world. Every surface holds secrets, whispers echoing off cracked walls like ancient wind chimes, reminders that time is malleable within these halls of forgotten memory. As you descend further into the labyrinthine passages, the air thickens with the weight of centuries past. Your footsteps echo off cold stone floors, a rhythmic cadence that stirs the echoes of forgotten conversations. You feel the presence of countless sleepers before you, their dreams now lost to the sands of time. The walls seem to press in on either side, as if trying to convey some hidden message. The whispers grow louder, an insistent susurration that weaves a spell around your mind. Your thoughts begin to blur and lose focus, like watercolors bleeding into one another. In this dreamlike state, the past begins to unravel its secrets. You find yourself wandering through a grand villa, surrounded by frescoes depicting mythological scenes from Greece and Egypt. The colors seem almost alive, as if infused with an otherworldly essence that seeps into your skin like moonlight on stone. You approach a series of narrow corridors, each one adorned with intricate mosaics. They tell the tale of Cleopatra VII's final days in Alexandria, her tumultuous reign, the wars she fought against rival claimants to the throne, and ultimately her tragic demise at the hands of Octavian, later Augustus. The images dance before your eyes like fireflies on a summer evening, Egyptian hieroglyphs blending with Greek statuary, regal processions and imperial triumphs. As you navigate these winding passages, memories start to resurface. You recall fragments of an ancient text, a historian's account of the last Ptolemaic queen's final hours. The air thickens around you as if it were a physical presence, weighing heavy on your chest. Cleopatra VII, that legendary figure of mystery and beauty, had been imprisoned in Octavian's villa at Tivoli. Her fate was all but sealed, a pawn to be used for the conqueror's own ends. Oh, and yet, a faint whisper tickles the edge of your consciousness. What if Cleopatra VII hadn't died that night? What if, as some ancient sources hinted, she had managed to escape her captors and flee into exile? Your mind begins to wander down a path where reality falters. You imagine yourself standing beside Cleopatra, navigating the treacherous waters of imperial politics in the midst of war-torn Rome. Together, you weave through narrow alleys and marketplaces, pursued by soldiers and spies. The streets seem to blur together as your thoughts accelerate like horses at a chariot's reins. Your heart pounds with an excitement that borders on panic, a wild, thrilling sensation akin to being swept up in a stormy sea. You recall the legend of Cleopatra's treasured amulet, an ornate golden pendant said to contain fragments of the Egyptian goddess Isis herself. Was it more than just a mere trinket? A key to unlocking ancient secrets and harnessing divine power. The dream begins to take on a life of its own, carrying you further into the labyrinthine recesses of history. Every step reveals new mysteries, hidden chambers beneath forgotten temples, secret texts penned by anonymous hands, whispers from beyond the veil echoing through eternity. You stumble upon an obscure text, a passage written in a language that defies translation. It speaks of Cleopatra's last confession to her loyal attendants, the secrets she took with her into death, and what lay hidden within those enigmatic eyes. As you delve deeper, memories begin to merge with your own waking experiences. Your thoughts become intertwined with ancient narratives, an intricate dance between past and present. The whispers grow louder still, a cacophony of echoes that threaten to overwhelm you. You stumble through the corridors, searching for answers in the dimly lit recesses of memory. In this twilight realm where dreams bleed into reality, what truth can be extracted from the tangled threads of history? The scent of damp earth and decaying leaves wafts up from beneath your feet as you stand outside a small, unassuming tomb on the outskirts of Rome's sprawling necropolis. You've been walking for what feels like hours, tracing the winding paths that crisscross this vast burial ground. The sun beats down relentlessly, making every step feel heavier than it should be. Sweat trickles down your spine as you navigate through the crowded rows of tombs, searching for something, anything to make sense of. Behind you, a group of mourners follows, their soft chanting and rustling clothing carrying on the breeze like a distant echo of life itself. Ahead, the tomb you're heading towards stands almost forgotten, its stone facade worn smooth by time and weather. You slow your pace as you approach, running your hand over the intricate carvings that depict scenes from mythological battles. A faint tremor runs through your fingers as you touch a particularly worn section of relief sculpture, where the artist's chisel has barely held together fragments of marble into a semblance of battle-hardened warriors. The tremor is almost imperceptible. It might be nothing more than the subtle resonance of footsteps from passing travelers or the distant rumble of chariots on Roman roads. Stillness envelops you as you step closer to the entrance, where shadows stretch out like grasping fingers across the stone floor. Dust motes dance in the faint sunlight filtering through a narrow opening above, an eerie counterpoint to the somber purpose that brought you here. For a moment, all is quiet. No sound breaks the stillness but your own soft breathing. A small inscription etched into the stone above the entrance bears only two words, Mnemosyne and something else, in letters so weathered they seem almost indistinguishable from the surrounding stone. Your eyes strain to decipher what lies there, squinting against a sunbeam that cuts through the opening like a silver thread. Your gaze lingers on those faintly legible characters as your mind reels with possibilities, questions about this tomb's forgotten occupant, perhaps even some long-lost family or loved one whose memory seems lost forever in Rome's labyrinthine necropolis. But there are no answers yet, only the soft crunch of gravel beneath feet and the heavy weight of history bearing down upon you. As the morning sun slowly gains altitude above, its warm rays seep into your skin like a gentle pressure, an insistent reminder that time waits for no one, not even those who have long since left this world behind. Dust stirs in tiny puffs as you step across the threshold and begin to navigate through narrow passageways within the tomb. Your footsteps echo faintly against cold stone walls, where flickering light casts eerie shadows on the floor, each tremor beneath your feet stirring up whispers of those who lie here, a silent requiem for forgotten lives. You breathe in deeply as you move deeper into this subterranean space, inhaling an air thick with dampness and age that clings to every surface like old memories. Shadows retreat before the sun's slowly climbing arc above, allowing faint beams to creep through narrow slits cut high up on walls, a gentle light that tames some of the darkness within. You follow one such beam as it touches an unassuming alcove. Weathered frescoes dance across the inner surface in faded shades, their colors muted by time. The image before you appears almost forgotten, another scene from mythology reimagined in this long-forgotten tomb. As your eyes roam over its gentle beauty, memories of life above begin to seep into your awareness once more. Streets bustling with activity, markets overflowing with fresh produce and exotic spices, conversations echoing off stone walls as people share stories and gossip. Dappled light on the wall casts a pattern like shadows on water, fluid, ever-changing. You find yourself swaying gently in rhythm with these fleeting shapes cast by sunbeams slipping through narrow slits high above, the world's relentless passage mirrored within this forgotten place of rest. As you pause to take it all in, your fingers brush against a nearby stone pedestal, worn smooth over centuries beneath countless touches and caresses. A relic lies nestled on its surface, a small mummified figure wrapped tightly within linen bands that seem almost too fine for the rough-hewn tomb walls surrounding them. You hesitate before carefully reaching out to touch this tiny, crumpled bundle of cloth and bone. The weight in your hand feels heavy, perhaps more than it should be given the fragile nature of its contents, but something about it seems reassuring, an unassuming presence whose significance only slowly begins to unravel within your mind's eye. This small mummy lies wrapped with precision, each fold a testament to some long-lost skill and reverence that once attended every step in this quiet burial ground. Faint impressions on the surface of its wrappings tell their own story, hands worn by years of service reaching out one last time before withdrawing into darkness. Time slows within your hand as you hold it still, absorbing the delicate weight and intricate patterns woven across each linen fold like some secret code waiting to be deciphered. Shadows creep around this tiny relic on its pedestal, an unassuming centerpiece in a tomb now lost for centuries, left behind amidst countless others who rest here awaiting their turn. The quiet reverence surrounding you grows more palpable as moments tick by without incident. No sound carries except the gentle creak of linen threads beneath your fingers and soft breathing that seems almost synchronized with the stillness outside. As you settle deeper into your slumber, the creaking of linen threads beneath your fingers grows softer still, a soothing accompaniment to the gentle rise and fall of chests around you. The air is heavy with the scent of myrrh and frankincense, carried on the whispers of the gods that linger in this place. It's as if the very atmosphere itself has absorbed the reverent hush that pervades these halls. Your breathing grows more regular now, synchronized not just with the stillness outside, but also with the slow heartbeat of the city itself. Rome sleeps fitfully, its inhabitants scattered across the sprawling metropolis like fallen leaves on an autumn breeze. But in this quiet tomb, time stands still and you are a part of it. As your mind drifts deeper into slumber, visions begin to surface, fleeting glimpses of life beyond these stone walls. You see processions winding through narrow streets, torchlight dancing across the faces of Roman citizens as they make their way to temple or forum. The sounds of hammers ringing out against metal, the murmur of merchants calling out their wares in a language that's almost but not quite forgotten. Your eyelids flutter open for an instant, and you catch a glimpse of your own reflection staring back at you, sun-kissed skin, wind-tousled hair, and eyes bright with the promise of another day. The gaze lingers only long enough to register a flicker of recognition before sliding away into the shadows. The world outside is hushed now, its rhythms reduced to a gentle thrum that vibrates through every stone in this tomb. You feel it deep within your chest, a slow, heavy heartbeat that seems almost familiar, as if you've heard it before, yet can't quite place where or when. Your thoughts grow disjointed and disconnected as the city's slumber begins to seep into your own consciousness. Dreams begin to weave themselves around you like threads of gold on an ivory loom, vivid images of life in ancient Rome. Feasts overflowing with fresh produce and steaming meat, public performances that leave the crowd gasping for breath. Yet even amidst these swirling visions, a nagging sense persists, something just beyond your grasp. A faint memory stirs within you like a sleeping giant awakened by distant thunder. You recall whispers of an unmarked tomb hidden away in some forgotten quarter of Rome's sprawling necropolis. Rumors spoke of its occupants, mummified Romans interred with honors they never knew, their lives reduced to mere echoes amidst the grand tapestry of empire. The memories grow clearer now, a tale of how these particular individuals met an untimely end during one fateful campaign in Gaul. Roman legionnaires fell like wheat before the enemy's steel, but some few made it back home as mangled shadows of their former selves. Their remains were shrouded and laid to rest with all due haste, yet something, perhaps a misplaced reverence for fallen comrades or an unspoken fear that these particular souls might prove untimely resurrected, led the priests of Mars to seal away this tomb like a vessel containing some contagion. In your dream state, you see them now, rows upon rows of mummified bodies, their eyes closed in eternal rest as if awaiting judgment or perhaps something more sinister. Each face bears an unmistakable testament to lives lived and lost, from sun-creased skin to wispy strands of hair frozen in a final moment's struggle against the inevitable. The images swirl around you like leaves on an autumn gale, yet even amidst this whirlwind of recollections, one thing stands out: your own presence here. How did you come to be in this unmarked tomb? What role do you play among these mummified Romans? Or perhaps it's simply that the memories themselves have woven a narrative around you. Time and space begin to blur as slumber claims its hold once more, and your thoughts dissolve into an endless expanse of shadows. You are no longer in Rome. Instead, you walk among the dead, or rather with them. Dreams bleed together like layers on parchment. Visions of battle-scarred faces etched upon stone pedestals, their eyes frozen in pain as if they'd witnessed some horror beyond endurance. Mummified hands cradle fragments of shattered armor, once proud standards now reduced to splinters and dust. And amidst it all, an air of resignation that hangs heavy over this forgotten place like a shroud. Yet even here, where shadows reign supreme, there exists something almost sacred. In the stillness of this tomb, you begin to grasp the full weight of lives lived in service to empire. Triumphs and failures, joyous moments shattered by cruel fate's hand. It dawns on you that these individuals, like yourself now a part of their story, left behind more than just memories when they surrendered their mortal coils. In this dimly lit place where night holds sway over the sleeping city above, an uncanny sense awakens within your breast, one that understands the unspoken bond forged between those who have walked beneath Rome's mighty gaze and now lie here in quiet repose. The warmth of a flickering candle seeps into your skin like a gentle lover's caress. You feel it first on your forehead, where the flame casts a golden glow, then spreads down to your cheeks and along your neck. The heat is soothing, a balm for the weariness that has been building in you all day. You lie here, wrapped in the soft folds of your sleeping mat, feeling the gentle give of its woven fibers beneath you. Your body sinks into it slowly, as if sinking into a cloud. You are aware vaguely of the weight of your sandals on the floor beside you, but even that seems distant, unimportant. As you breathe in, the scent of olive oil and old wool fills your nostrils. It's a smell you know well from countless nights just like this one, when the world outside seemed to recede and all that mattered was the quiet, dark space within these walls. In the corner of the room, a small pot is suspended over an embers by a length of cord. The flames are dying down now, casting flickering shadows on the stone floor. You can see the gentle rise and fall of your roommate's chest as he sleeps, his breathing soft and even. The air in here is thick with the scent of last night's supper. You think it was lentils and vegetables again, but also something else, a hint of salt and seaweed. You can't quite place it, but it makes your stomach growl with hunger. Maybe you'll get up later to see if there are any leftovers. Your eyes drift shut as the warmth seeps deeper into your bones. It's been a long day, more like 2 days without rest, what with the market and then the forum and all that walking in the blistering sun. You think about getting up, but somehow it seems too much effort now. As you settle further into the mat, a faint creaking noise catches your attention. It's the sound of wooden beams shifting slightly under the weight of the house above, or maybe just the old stone settling as the night wears on. Whatever it is, it's a gentle reminder that even in this stillness, there are always tiny movements happening around you. You try to listen more closely, but your eyelids feel heavy now, too heavy for anything except sleep. The sounds outside recede into the distance. Muffled laughter from a nearby tavern, the distant clang of pots and pans being washed away by some diligent housewife. All these fade into nothing as you surrender yourself to the softness of this darkness. As your breathing slows down even further, almost imperceptibly so, you feel something that's hard to explain. It's like the city outside is wrapped around you, holding its breath in anticipation of dawn breaking over the rooftops. You're suspended here between worlds, one foot still firmly planted on terra firma, but another floating on a raft made of memories. Your roommate stirs slightly, his chest rising and falling with an even more pronounced rhythm now. He's probably dreaming of running for office or some other civic endeavor. He does that sometimes when he sleeps. You watch him through half-open eyes as the candlelight casts eerie shadows on his face. The flame is burning down to its final wisps, casting a dying ember glow over everything in sight. Shadows stretch and contort like living things around you both, dark tendrils reaching out to snuff out the last of the light. Your roommate shifts again, turning onto his side with an unmistakable groan. He's getting uncomfortable now, probably been lying there too long without moving properly. You feel a twinge in your own back as he does so. It seems like every time you wake up in this small space, something hurts somewhere. His restless movements finally die down as well. The stillness is complete once more except for one thing. The moon outside has reached its zenith now, high above the rooftops. You can see a narrow sliver of silver light creeping through the window, casting an eerie glow on your face and the wall opposite. As you lie there, the silver light from the moon dances across your face, casting an otherworldly glow on your features. You feel a shiver run down your spine as the chill of night seeps into the room through the open window. The air is heavy with the scent of blooming jasmine and myrtle that cling to the windowsill, their fragrance wafting in on the gentle breeze. Your eyes flutter shut and you're transported back to a summer evening long past. You find yourself standing amidst the bustling streets of Rome's Portus district. The year is 29 BCE, and the Roman navy has just arrived from its latest campaign against the Parthians. As you weave through the crowded alleys, you hear snippets of conversation in hushed tones, sailors exchanging stories of their adventures on distant seas. You follow a group of weary soldiers as they make their way towards the city's central square. Their laughter and jests fill the air, mingling with the smell of freshly baked bread wafting from nearby bakeries. The moon is high overhead, casting an ethereal glow over the scene before you. As you watch, a tall figure emerges from the shadows, Marcus Agrippa himself, one of Rome's most trusted generals and a close friend to Emperor Augustus. He strides through the crowd with purpose, his eyes scanning the square as if searching for something or someone. The soldiers part ways for him, their heads bowed in respect. You follow Agrippa as he approaches a small, unassuming door hidden behind a tapestry of vines. He produces a key from his belt and unlocks the door, revealing a narrow stairway leading down into darkness. A faint light flickers within, the dim glow of oil lamps casting eerie shadows on the walls. Agrippa disappears below, leaving you to wonder what secrets lie beneath your feet. You descend the stairs, finding yourself in a cramped chamber filled with an assortment of peculiar objects. There's a collection of curious instruments, a gilded astrolabe, a set of crystal lenses, and a small wooden box adorned with intricate carvings. A figure rises from behind a nearby pedestal, an elderly scholar with wisps of white hair and spectacles perched on the end of his nose. He introduces himself as Lucius, a renowned astronomer in the service of Augustus. Lucius's eyes light up as he takes in your presence, and he begins to explain the purpose of this hidden chamber. "This is where we study the celestial mysteries," Lucius says, his voice barely above a whisper. "We seek answers to questions that have puzzled philosophers for centuries, the secrets of the stars, the movements of the planets. We've made discoveries, my friend, but there's one enigma that has stumped us all." Lucius approaches you with an air of conspiratorial excitement, his voice growing hushed. There are whispers among the sailors and soldiers about strange occurrences on the high seas, lights in the darkness, unexplained navigational errors. It seems some force is at work beyond our understanding. As he speaks, Agrippa reemerges from the shadows, his expression grim. He produces a small scroll sealed with a wax stamp bearing the emblem of Augustus and hands it to Lucius. Your findings, Agrippa says curtly. We've had reports of an unidentified presence in the region of Cyrenaica. Lucius unfurls the parchment, scanning its contents before his eyes widen in alarm. He hands the scroll back to Agrippa, who folds it with a sense of urgency. Marcus, what does this mean? Lucius asks, his voice trembling slightly. Agrippa's expression remains serious. It means we have something that may be beyond human explanation, and our duty is to uncover its nature. As the moon reaches its zenith above Rome, you realize you've been transported back in time once more, bearing witness to a mystery that will change the course of history. The Roman navy has stumbled upon something it cannot explain. I found myself standing on the banks of the Tiber River, the warm glow of torches flickering as Roman sailors and soldiers swarmed around me, their faces etched with a mix of curiosity and concern. The air was thick with the smell of salt water and tar, carrying the unmistakable scent of the sea. I took in my surroundings, the imposing outlines of temples and basilicas rising from the landscape like giants, the distant hum of city life muffled by the late-night stillness. A young tribune approached me, his eyes locked onto mine with an air of suspicion tempered by a hint of desperation. You, he said, his voice low and urgent, as if sharing a secret that could cost him dearly. What is your business here? I hesitated for a moment before attempting to compose myself. Ancient Rome was not a place I had ever consciously visited in my dreams, at least not until now. My mind reeled with the implications of time travel and déjà vu. Had I been sent back for a purpose? And what did this enigmatic tribune want from me? I'm lost, I stammered, hoping to deflect attention away from myself. The tribune eyed me warily, but appeared willing to accept my explanation. You are far from home, that's certain, he replied thoughtfully. But we need your help. We've encountered something in the waters near Ostia, a find that defies all logic and understanding. As if drawn by an unseen force, I felt myself being led toward the sea. A chill ran down my spine as I caught sight of the naval vessels assembled offshore, their hulls bobbing gently on the calm water. There was something incongruous about these majestic ships, something that set them apart from their peers. What have you found? I asked the tribune, a sense of foreboding gathering within me like storm clouds on a summer's day. He gestured toward one vessel in particular, its hull scarred and battered as if it had weathered some unimaginable ordeal. This ship, he said quietly, has brought back something from the depths that cannot be explained. As we reached the shore, I caught sight of the sailors gathered around a makeshift platform near the water's edge. On this makeshift dais lay an odd assortment of objects, a series of delicate filigree pieces interlocked in intricate patterns, a metallic sheet glinting like gold in the moonlight, and something long and dark that seemed almost biological. The Roman sailors had constructed a barrier around these strange relics, forming a perimeter as if they feared contamination. It was clear to me now, this find was not from any natural source I could fathom. "What is it?" I asked the Tribune once more, though my thoughts were already racing with possibilities that defied reason and challenged everything I thought I knew about human history. "It is beyond our understanding," he replied gravely, "as if it has been here before, waiting for us to find it." The ship's crew seemed shaken by their discovery, some whispering amongst themselves as they stared at the enigmatic objects with an air of reverence mixed with terror. Others whispered of divine intervention and portents. I watched in a mixture of awe and trepidation as one of them ventured forward, hesitantly touching the metallic sheet. There was something almost magical about this moment, like witnessing history itself unfolding before me. And then it hit me, the realization that what we were looking at here might not just change Rome, but also challenge every fundamental understanding humanity held about its place in the world. The Roman Navy's discovery had sparked a mix of awe and trepidation, but I knew this was only the beginning. For us to uncover the truth behind these mysterious relics would require an unwavering commitment to unraveling secrets that lay at the very heart of human existence. The scent of wood smoke wafts through the air, carried on a gentle breeze that stirs the dust motes dancing in the fading light. You lie down on your pallet, feeling the softness give way to your weight as you sink into its fibers. The warmth from the hearth seeps into your bones, chasing away the chill of the evening. Your eyelids grow heavy, and for a moment all seems right with the world. As you settle in, the sounds of the household take on a soothing quality, the soft murmur of conversation between your mother and aunt as they work on their weaving, the gentle clinking of pots being put away by your father. The air is filled with the scent of cooking oil and baking bread, making your stomach growl softly. Your gaze wanders to the small fire burning in the hearth, its flames casting a warm glow over the room. You watch as they dance, their gentle flicker mesmerizing you into a state of relaxation. Your breathing slows, becoming more shallow as your body begins to unwind. The Roman Forum lies just beyond this window. The hubbub of activity and commerce is a distant hum in the background, but it's nothing compared to the tranquility that pervades your family's modest dwelling. You feel safe here, enveloped by the love and familiarity of those around you. As night falls, your mother comes over to adjust your cloak, her gentle fingers smoothing out any wrinkles. "Get some rest, dear one," she whispers, before moving on to check on the others in the household. Her soft footsteps pad across the floorboards as she goes about her duties, preparing for another busy day tomorrow. You close your eyes, letting the sounds and scents wash over you like a warm bath. Your body begins to relax further, muscles releasing their tension as you let go of the weight of the day's activities. You feel yourself sinking deeper into the palate, becoming one with its softness and warmth. Your father returns from his evening stroll, his footsteps creaking on the wooden floorboards outside your room. He knocks softly before entering, a gentle smile playing on his lips as he sees you lying down. "Time for bed," he says quietly, setting aside his staff against the wall. His eyes linger on yours for a moment before he turns to blow out the candles, plunging the room into darkness. The sudden absence of light doesn't startle you. Instead, it's almost comforting, a reminder that it's time to rest and recharge. You feel your body relax further as the stillness envelops you, like a gentle blanket wrapping around your entire being. Your mother returns with a soft creak of the door hinges, carrying a small clay pot filled with water. She carefully places it beside your pallet before moving on to check on the others in the household. Her footsteps recede into the distance as she goes about her duties, ensuring everyone is safe and comfortable for another busy day. The air grows quieter still, only punctuated by the occasional snore or gentle murmur from one of your family members. You feel yourself becoming lighter, more detached from the physical world around you. Your thoughts begin to drift away on a tide of sleepiness, carried off into dreamland like leaves floating down a river. In this quiet state, memories and half-remembered tales start to resurface, stories about ancient civilizations that once thrived in Italy, their achievements and struggles woven together by the threads of time. Your mind wanders through these histories, drawing connections between them as if searching for something hidden beneath the surface. As your thoughts begin to take shape, they blend with the surrounding stillness until you're no longer sure what's real and what's imagined. You feel yourself being drawn into a world both familiar and yet utterly foreign, where the threads of history are woven together like the intricate patterns on an ancient tapestry. The air in the room seems to thicken, becoming more humid as your breathing slows further still. The sounds around you fade away, replaced by the gentle hum of your own heartbeat. You feel yourself falling deeper into slumber, carried off on a tide of dreams and half-remembered stories. Oh, and so it begins. The weight of sleep settles upon you like a blanket, heavy, comforting, and reassuring. Your body relaxes further still, sinking deeper into the pallet as if trying to burrow into its very fabric. The room around you dissolves into darkness, leaving only your own heartbeat as a reminder that you're alive. As your heartbeat slows its gentle cadence, a faint hum of distant sounds begins to seep into your consciousness like wisps of smoke on a breeze. The soft murmur of conversation from neighboring homes carries through the walls, punctuated by an occasional clang of pots and pans being washed in the nearby tabernae. These familiar noises blend together with the creaking of wooden shutters swaying gently against the night air. In this dimly lit world, your mind drifts to memories long buried beneath the city's unrelenting din. You recall the countless days spent exploring the sprawling streets and alleys of Rome alongside a family member, perhaps a brother or sister. Their laughter echoes in your thoughts as you navigate the narrow passageways, pausing every so often to sample street vendors' wares. Sweet pastries still warm from the oven, crispy flatbreads slathered with olive oil and herbs. Your footsteps lead you through the winding streets of Subura, its haphazard architecture giving way to imposing structures like the Forum Romanum. In your mind's eye, the Forum rises up, a sprawling expanse of marble, temples, and public buildings that seem almost otherworldly in their grandeur. You feel an inexplicable pull towards this hub of civic life, as if drawn by some unseen force. Your thoughts grow more disjointed now, drifting like autumn leaves on a breeze. Flickers of remembrance dance across your mind's surface, the intricate mosaics that adorn temple floors, the stern-faced statues watching over the forum from atop their pedestals, the soft clucking of doves in ornate stone niches. And then, as if conjured by some hidden spring within you, a memory stirs, long suppressed beneath layers of dust and neglect. A figure steps forward into your mind's eye, an elderly relative with eyes that seem to hold secrets beyond their years. They gesture towards the forum, beckoning you closer. As your attention becomes fixed on this family member, the city around them begins to change, or rather, its true face is revealed beneath a facade of modernity and neglect. Crumbling stones give way to fresh marble, ancient arches are rebuilt with precision and care, and in place of decrepit wooden stalls stand gleaming white tabernae that seem almost otherworldly. You feel your mind grasping at this vision, as if striving to comprehend the full extent of what's being revealed. Your relative moves closer still, their eyes locking onto yours with an unspoken understanding. In a voice barely above a whisper, they begin to speak of an ancient secret buried beneath Rome's foundations. We hid it there, your relative says, in plain sight yet shrouded from prying eyes. It's said that only those who have truly lived the life can see beyond the facade, that only in their sleep do the walls grow thin and allow glances into a past long forgotten. As you continue to listen with rapt attention, your relative pauses to glance around nervously at other sleeping Romans nearby. It's been hidden for centuries now, they whisper on, voice barely audible over the creaking of wooden beams above. Their words are laced with urgency and an undercurrent of warning, as if cautioning you against delving too deeply into secrets best left buried. And yet your mind remains captivated by their tale. A thread long severed from its moorings now seems to reattach itself, pulling you inexorably towards some hidden truth within the heart of ancient Rome. Your sleep-addled thoughts whirl about these fragments, attempting to form connections between disparate memories and half-remembered conversations. Yet with each passing moment, your perception shifts ever so slightly. Shadows on walls lengthen, the soft lapping of water against stone grows louder still. And then it happens, a jolt as sudden as waking from a vivid dream. Your eyelids snap open, blinking in confusion at the faint light seeping through narrow slits in the wooden shutter above your bed. The warmth of your own breath on the back of your hand seeps into your palm like a gentle mist. You're lying on a thin mattress made from woven reeds, supported by a wooden frame that creaks softly as you shift position. The smell of old wood and dust wafts up from the frame, mingling with the scent of fresh olive oil carried on the breeze through the narrow window above your bed. The air is heavy with the stillness of late afternoon in Rome's autumnal season. The sun has long since dipped below the rooftops, casting a warm orange glow over everything it touches. Your eyelids feel heavy from a day spent navigating the city's cobblestone streets, haggling for fresh produce at the markets. Your head lies on a small pile of woolen blankets that have been passed down through generations of your family. The softness is comforting against your skin, and you breathe in deeply to let its gentle fibers wrap around you like a soothing balm. You're aware of the faint scent of cooking wafting from the kitchen below. Your mother's simmering stews are always a welcome respite after a long day spent foraging for bread or attending to household chores. But even the tantalizing aromas can't rouse you from this languid state, as your body seems to crave only rest. Your thoughts wander back to the task that consumed most of your morning, measuring out the correct ratio of lime and water for Apollodorus' famous concrete mixtures. The esteemed architect had arrived at our doorstep with a small commission in hand, a series of minor repairs to his beloved Pantheon temple, no less, and you were tasked with ensuring its completion was nothing short of perfection. As your mind drifts through the familiar cadence of measurement and proportion, you recall Apollodorus himself pacing before your father's workshop, scrutinizing every detail. His eyes narrowed as he examined each column, running his fingers over their weathered surfaces to detect even the slightest imperfection. Your thoughts return to that particular afternoon when Apollodorus' obsession became almost distressing. He was so fixated on a single column, one of many identical columns, yet somehow it seemed singularly remarkable in his eyes. As he strode before your father's workbench, running his fingers over the stone, you watched him grow increasingly agitated. What if, Apollodorus muttered to himself, the ratio is off? What if this column, just one of so many, holds some hidden flaw that will bring down the entire temple? Your father patted Apollodorus' shoulder reassuringly. Come now, great architect, we've measured it all twice already. Apollodorus shook his head vigorously, still patrolling before your family's workshop, as if searching for an invisible fault line in the very fabric of reality itself. You feel a faint memory of yourself, feeling trapped by Apollodorus' fixation on that singular column. The sense of being unable to escape it lingers like a half-forgotten melody, but try as you might, your mind can't quite grasp onto the specifics anymore. The sounds around you grow softer still. Only an occasional muffled conversation from downstairs and the creaks of old wooden beams in the house provide any background noise. Your eyelids have grown heavy once more. It's almost as if they're anchoring themselves to the mattress, refusing to open unless absolutely necessary. As your body relaxes into this state, you feel an unfamiliar weight settle onto your chest, one of those thick woolen blankets that were draped over a nearby stool earlier in the day. It had been meant for some other task entirely, but now it lies across your torso like a warm shroud. The sensation is almost too comforting to bear. It's as if you're being wrapped into submission by this seemingly innocuous blanket, gently forcing all worries and concerns back down beneath its soothing surface. You feel yourself letting go of Apollodorus' troubled column. It recedes from your thoughts like a wave lapping at the shore. The silence becomes almost palpable now. Time itself seems to stretch out in anticipation of whatever night may bring. As you settle deeper into your slumber, the stillness within and without seems to merge into a single entity, a vast expanse that envelops everything with its quietude. The air is heavy with the scent of olives and fresh bread wafting from the nearby Thermopolis, but even these familiar aromas seem muted now, as if filtered through a layer of gauze. Your mind begins to wander, drifting back to Apollodorus' troubled thoughts like a boat on a tranquil lake. You recall his words, "I have built temples for gods and palaces for kings, yet I am consumed by this one column." His anguish is almost palpable as you relive the conversation in your dreams. As you delve deeper into slumber, Apollodorus' presence grows stronger within your mind's eye. You see him pacing through the vast halls of Nero's palace, his eyes fixed on a small sketchbook clutched tightly to his chest. The pages are filled with intricate drawings of the very column that has become an obsession. Its proportions, its materials, every detail meticulously rendered. You begin to feel as though you're walking alongside him, navigating the labyrinthine corridors of the palace alongside this troubled mind. Every step echoes through your subconscious, and with each one, Apollodorus' anxiety grows. His breath quickens, his footsteps become more agitated. The air thickens around you, a physical manifestation of the weight bearing down on Apollodorus' shoulders. Sweat breaks out across your brow as if by proxy, mirroring his own fevered worries. You feel the pressure building within him like an inner tempest, ready to unleash itself upon the world at any moment. And yet, even in this turmoil, there's a sense of fascination. Your mind remains transfixed on Apollodorus' plight, as though you're drawn into some ancient, forbidden knowledge hidden deep within his troubled column. The more you try to shake off its influence, the stronger it holds an irresistible force that drags you deeper into the dark recesses of his psyche. Time dissolves around you, hours blend together with a hazy indistinctness. You're no longer sure whether Apollodorus' nocturnal pacing has turned into your own restless dreams or vice versa. Your body becomes heavy and unresponsive, weighed down by some unseen force that refuses to release its grip on your limbs. It's as though the sleep itself is a living entity, one that seizes control of your mind and weaves it into its endless tapestry of half-remembered thoughts and forgotten realities. In this boundless expanse, you're but a fleeting moment, lost amidst an eternity of dreamscape whispers. Yet even in these depths of slumber, there remains a glimmer of awareness, the faintest whisper that something is amiss within Apollodorus' troubled heart. His anxiety simmers just below the surface, waiting to boil over into chaos at any instant. Your consciousness stirs like a spark rekindled from dying embers, flickering in protest against this crushing weight bearing down upon your mind's fragile walls. As you strain towards wakefulness, Apollodorus' column comes hurtling back, its proportions blurring together with the faint lines on his face, etched deep into memory. And then, like a whispered secret shared between confidants, you recall the fateful words, "If only I could make it perfect, if only." In this moment of heightened awareness, you sense the night coiling around Apollodorus' fragile form, an encroaching darkness that heralds his downfall. His troubled column has become a ticking time bomb, counting down to some calamitous event that will shatter the tranquility of Rome's imperial court. Your eyelids flutter open, and as they do, you're enveloped by the pale light of dawn creeping through narrow windows high above, an unwelcome intrusion into your nightmarish reverie. As you sit up, rubbing the grit from your eyes, the memories of the previous night's events come flooding back, fragmented and unsettling as a series of jagged glass shards in the soft light of dawn. You recall being awoken by muffled voices outside your chamber door, hushed whispers that seem to carry an air of desperation on their breathless currents. The words Vitruvius and the column had been spoken, but you couldn't quite grasp what they meant or why the mention of them sent a shiver down your spine. Your gaze falls upon a nearby table where candles still flicker in empty holders, casting eerie shadows on the walls. The air is heavy with smoke and the faint scent of something burning, like the remnants of last night's dinner being reduced to naught but ash. You notice that the small wooden box you had kept next to your bed lies open, its contents scattered across the tablecloth. A tangle of scrolls, some broken pottery shards, and a few loose silver coins. You try to piece together the events leading up to this moment, but your mind remains stubbornly foggy. It's as if last night never existed, except for those haunting words "King Time Bomb," that kept echoing in the recesses of your memory like an ominous drumbeat warning of some impending disaster. Your thoughts are interrupted by a soft knock at the door. You call out, hoping to clear away the cobwebs from your brain, but all you receive is silence, as if whoever was knocking has suddenly vanished into thin air. The stillness that follows stretches on for what feels like an eternity, until you can't help but wonder if it's just another dream, or perhaps a fragment of one. With a growing sense of unease, you swing your legs over the side of the bed and plant them firmly on the cold stone floor. As you stand up, dizziness washes over you, threatening to send you tumbling back onto the mattress. The world spins for what feels like an eternity before it gradually rights itself. The knocking returns, this time louder and more insistent than before. This time a soft voice speaks through the door, "Maestro, please wake up." It's the unmistakable lilt of Marcus Aurelius' personal secretary, who'd often bring you fresh fruit or honey cakes in the morning to help ease your hangover. Your stomach roils at the mention of food. You're not sure if it's from a lingering after effect of last night's wine or something more sinister. Either way, it's clear that someone, perhaps several someones, is waiting for you outside. With a growing sense of trepidation, you fumble with the door latch and push open the heavy wooden panel. The secretary stands in the doorway, his expression one of concern rather than greeting. He glances over your shoulder before focusing on your face. "You're awake then." "Good." His voice is low, almost hesitant, as if he's not quite sure what to make of you right now. As you shuffle past him into the hallway beyond, a faint smell wafts from the direction they seem to be heading, like burning wood mixed with something sweeter. It's familiar yet unsettling, and it stirs memories that refuse to surface. The passageway unwinds before them as if leading through an abandoned cave, flickering torches casting eerie shadows on walls covered in dust and old frescoes of a time long past. You start down the corridor alongside Marcus Aurelius' secretary, your feet carrying you forward with no clear destination or purpose other than to follow where they lead. Your footsteps echo off the stone as if announcing their arrival, an unsettling portent that precedes them into whatever lies ahead. The air grows thick and heavy, like storm clouds gathering on a summer's day. As you press onward through this narrow passageway, something begins to stir within your mind. A faint memory from long ago when Rome was still young, the fires of passion and creativity burning bright in its heart. And then it hits, like an earthquake that rumbles beneath the surface before bursting into view. The column. Vitruvius' design for the greatest architectural wonder of all time. You recall nights spent poring over dusty scrolls by candlelight, your hand sketching the curves and lines as if guiding a divine creation to life. As memories resurface like a flooded river breaking through its banks, you understand what drove last night's strange occurrences, an architect consumed by his vision for Rome's crown jewel, the column that will stand taller than all others, shining bright with imperial splendor. Tonight you've traveled through the mist-shrouded alleys of Rome's forgotten quarters, where shadows danced with whispers and distant fires cast a golden glow on ancient stone. You've walked alongside a Roman breakfast vendor as he stirred his porridge with a worn wooden spoon, its rhythmic motion echoing like the gentle lapping of waves against the shore. Your footsteps merged with those of an emperor's mistress, her hidden heirloom glinting like a fragment of moonlight in the darkness. A scribe's hand brushed against yours as you navigated the cramped streets, his parchment worn and yellowed from countless nights spent poring over ancient texts by flickering candlelight. At its core, tonight's journey revealed how even the most seemingly disparate threads, breakfasts, feuds, rebellions, construction sites, and monarchies, were intertwined like the intricate patterns on an old Roman mosaic. Each tale unfolded like a petal from a flower, revealing the same underlying truths about human nature, our capacity for both cruelty and kindness, our struggles with power and identity. If you'd like to keep exploring, you can gently tap like and subscribe so you don't miss the next journey. And if you feel awake enough, leave a comment and share where in the world you're listening from. Perhaps it's on a mountain range at dawn or beside a quiet river at dusk. As the night wraps itself around you once more, allow your thoughts to settle like autumn leaves into a soft heap. Let the details of ancient Rome sink below the surface of thought, carried away by the dark and quiet currents that flow through time. And as you surrender to sleep's gentle pull, remember that memories are like seeds planted in the earth. They may lie dormant for centuries, but with patience and nourishment, they will one day bloom anew. Time is a river, ever flowing and always patient. Its waters carry our stories forward into an endless expanse of history.